Chapter 566. Elder Zhong? The guard outside saw Elder Zhong standing in an armed car with his hands behind his back. Behind him were more than 10 strong bodyguards in black. The guard was speechless. What was going on? Why aren't you opening the door? Zhong Shenglin glanced at him coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He felt that he was looking for someone to fight with. Compared to the output of martial arts, Zhong Shenglin definitely had no advantage in the war zone. However, the advanced systems and some of the new weapons in their district were all developed by Elder Zhong. The guard had no choice but to open the door. In any case, as the #1 computer scientist in the country, Elder Zhong would not do anything that would lower his status. That was what they thought. At this moment, Elder Zhong got out of the car expressionlessly and walked to Building 7 with more than 10 bodyguards. The director team, who was recording the show and filming the guests, saw a familiar face pass by aggressively. There were more than 10 bodyguards behind him. The scene was inexplicably strange. The director team was speechless. That was Mr. Zhong Shenglin, right? What was he doing here? Everyone had different thoughts, but they were very sensible and did not mention Zhong Shenglin. Only the people in the live stream did not know that a scientific researcher had passed by behind the camera. What do you think of this school? Old Master Lung had already introduced the school to Bai Yunj very naturally, but at this moment, the people outside the door could not stop him. Zhong Shenglin had already kicked the door open and entered. Zhong Shenglin, what are you doing? This was the first time Old Master Lung saw Zhong Shenglin like this. Wasn't he too angry? Zhong Shenglin sneered. Why was this person asking him? I love Chinese network. Shouldn't I be the one asking you what you're doing? With that, Zhong Shenglin walked in front of Old Master Lung and was suddenly stopped by Old Master Lung. He did not even see Bai Yunj. Old Master Lung said confidently, "This is my successor. Don't do anything rash." Zhong Shenglin's face darkened. He went up and pushed Old Master Lung. Did I agree to what you said? Did Lan Jun agree? Old Master Lung was caught off guard and sat on the sofa. He straightened his neck and looked at him. Did this person drink fake alcohol today? He actually dared to hit him. Soon, Old Master Lung looked at Zhong Shenglin's face and gradually understood who Zhong Shenglin was for. This was the first time he saw Old Master Lung. He almost wanted to fight with him on the spot. Old Zhong, don't tell me you think you can take her away with just a dozen people? Old Master Lung chuckled, looking down on him. What was this place? Old Master Lung heard Zhong Shenglin say gently, take out everything. Outside the door, more than 10 bodyguards in black opened the things. It was the high-level weapon that Old Master Lung had asked Zhong Shenglin for help to design. Old Master Lung suddenly had a bad feeling. However, as expected, Zhong Shenglin smiled gently. If you don't let him go today, I'll throw these things down from the 6th floor. Don't even think about the Computing Institute developing anything for you for the rest of your life. Old Master Lung. Was Zhong Shenglin already so sincere that he wanted to fight with him? Chapter 567. Old Master Lung was most afraid of scientific researchers. Each of them was more stubborn than the other. Just as expected, Old Master Lung heard Zhong Shenglin say coldly, don't make it sound so easy for you to hurt me. Had he been watching some tragic drama recently? Then let's be reasonable, okay? Old Master Lung took a deep breath. He did not want to fight with Zhong Shenglin here either. He tried his best to make his voice sound more kind. What about Yunj? She has the ability to do this. What can she do if you ask her to go to the Research Institute? Play games in the Computing Institute? Bai Yunj glanced at Old Master Lung unconsciously. Zhong Shenglin was also in disbelief by Old Master Lung's shocking words. So this person did not know Gu'er at all and already wanted Bai Yunj to be his successor. Zhong Shenglin thought for a moment and glanced at Old Master Lung. Finally, he went to close the door. Zhong Shenglin said, Old Lung, let me tell you the truth. Among the people who tried to steal my woman, you're the least qualified to fight with me. Old Master Lung was speechless. Why was Zhong Shenglin so arrogant recently? However, Zhong Shenglin felt that he was telling the truth. Nance had the Higgins family and Marcus was the director of a top computing institute. Even that Stephen from the medical institute was at least part of the academic circle. What about this Lung guy? Did he have to let a scientific research genius fight with him against a criminal gang? Did the scientific research field give people the illusion that there were many talents this year, making them think that scientific research geniuses were not important? What can she do with you? Can you give her the institute? Why can't I? Even if the door was closed, the people outside could hear the shouting conversation very clearly. The bodyguards and the guards looked at each other. 1717. So were these two people all right? At this moment, Bei Yunj moved her eyebrows and said, Old Master Lung, thank you for your kindness, but I really can't accept your kindness. Why? Old Master Lung could not believe it. After thinking for a while, Bei Yunj said honestly, because I can't take it. Old Master Lung, why did it sound so perfunctory? Forget it, let's lay our cards on the table. Anyway, Old Lung wants to know everything. Seeing that Bei Yunj didn't stop him, Zhong Shenglin asked straightforwardly, Do you remember that your superior asked you to mobilize the elites in the theater of operations? I remember. However, when he regained his senses, he felt that Zhong Shenglin was being ridiculous and deliberately mystifying. What does this have to do with Yunj? Upon hearing this, Zhong Shenglin smiled. It was said in the last meeting that we will pick out elites from the war zone for protection. He explained kindly. She is. As soon as he finished speaking, Old Master Lung froze. It took him a while to react. He jerked his head up and looked at Bei Yunj in disbelief. Such a young girl? He thought that he was at least 40 or 50 years old. In the end, he was F*King 2 rounds younger. Wait a minute, that mathematics award is also hers? Old Master Lung suddenly felt his scalp turn numb. Yes. She was nominated for both the mathematics award and the computing award. So, Old Lung, if you poach her, how are you going to explain it to the higher-ups? Zhong Shenglin was smiling. He really wanted to beat someone up when he saw how happy he was. However, Zhong Shenglin was right. If the two of them fought for her, the higher-ups would definitely help Zhong Shenglin. Chapter 568. Old Master Lung's mood instantly became extremely complicated. At this moment, he could not help but ask, Then why are you participating in the variety show? Wasn't she afraid that her true identity would be exposed in the future and cause an accident? I came with someone. As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, Zhong Shenglin was stunned. You're participating in a variety show? Looking at the shocked expressions on their faces, her eyebrows twitched, but she did not say anything. She simply acquiesced. In the end, although Old Master Lung was very indignant, he could only help Bei Yunj hide her identity. He immediately sent someone to contact the production team and cut out all the shooting segments of Bei Yunj. Since they had already signed the contract for this variety show, they could only continue recording. So, the fans had just created a super topic for Bei Yunj when it suddenly disappeared. However, they could not attract any more attention. At this moment, Zhong Shenglin was also contacting his acquaintances to suppress the popularity of Bei Yunj. They had been in the industry for so many years, but this was the first time they had encountered such a thing. The super topic was gone. It was as if it had never existed. This made Bei Yunj's fans feel like they had seen a ghost. When Bei Yunj returned to the team, the instructor did not have time to react before he saw Old Master Lung walking over. His eyes widened and he immediately saluted Old Master Lung. Then where were they going to get the data? After that, the manager of the war zone was not someone to be trifled with. However, the director did not expect Old Master Lung to look for him to make a few requests. Old Master Lung nodded and walked directly to the director. You're the director, right? I'm the person in charge of this area. I want to talk to you about some private matters. Hearing this, the director naturally did not dare to refuse. The live broadcast of the shooting had to be deleted as soon as possible. Why? The director could not help but ask. Reduce Bei Yunj's scenes. Suppress all the popularity of Bei Yunj. Usually when someone made this request to him, it was definitely to ban her. However, how could the higher-ups put in so much effort to ban a little girl? Old Master Lung smiled. I'm sorry, comrade. This is the arrangement of the higher-ups. For the rest of the work, I hope you can film her back and not show her face. When the director heard this, he also sensed that something was wrong. But she and Chinyu are the most popular guests among us. The director murmured. The only possibility was that they wanted to protect Bae Yunja's privacy. However, the director was also very curious. What did Bae Yunja's privacy have that was worth Old Master Lung's protection? If this variety show failed again, his career would be completely ruined. How about this? Do it well first. If you have any difficulties, you can contact me. This time, he had spent a lot of money on this variety show. Some time ago, because of his family's accident, he had lost his family's wealth. After this matter was settled, after a few days, everyone realized that the instructor no longer made things difficult for Bae Yunj. Old Master Lung smiled and said, "The national channel also has the idea of recording a variety show. We can also apply for you to do it." This made the netizens, who had come to watch the variety show because of Bae Yunj, unable to help but at the official account online to ask. Bae Yunja's scenes were getting fewer and fewer with each episode. What was even more surprising was that most of the scenes were actually her back. Instead, they had changed their target. But in the end, a few seconds later, their messages were automatically blocked. The speed of this blocking was even faster than those capitalists suppressing the news. Chapter 569. This made some netizens feel that something was wrong. However, no matter who they gave feedback to, no one answered this question. Gradually, the popularity of Bae Yunja's group dropped, and everyone's attention was on Chinyu. Almost no one reacted. Occasionally, Bae Yunj would not have any scenes in the afternoon. Bae Yunj was drinking tea with Old Master Lung in Building 7. After interacting with her for a few days, Old Master Lung felt that Bae Yunj was too compatible with his personality. If Zhong Shenglin had not kept a close eye on her, he really wanted to try poaching her. "Girl, why do you have a call every afternoon?" Old Master Lung looked at her mischievously. Bae Yunj smiled. "It's my older brother." Hearing this, Old Master Lung thought that he was her biological brother, and did not ask further. However, on the last day, at the program banquet arranged by the production team, Old Master Lung happened to see a familiar figure when he passed by. It was Hua Shidu. "Shidu, why are you here?" Old Master Lung looked at him in surprise and immediately walked over to pick someone up. Hua Shidu nodded slightly at Old Master Lung and glanced at his watch. He was still standing casually by the car. In the eyes of others, the man was wearing an exquisite handmade white shirt. The hem of his shirt was loosely tucked, making his figure look perfect. Under his suit pants, his slender and straight legs were excessively ascetic. His pale-colored eyes were filled with gentleness, but he gave off a feeling that he was 1,000 miles away. No one dared to go forward and talk to him. Elder. In Old Master Lung's impression, other than his elders, Hua Shidu did not receive such treatment from the other juniors. "No, he's a child." Hua Shidu smirked, his eyes smiling carelessly. "He's quite hard to coax." For some reason, Hua Shidu felt that there was something wrong with this child's attitude recently. However, Old Master Lung raised an eyebrow in surprise. This was his first time hearing him say this. "Shidu, do you have a girlfriend?" Hua Shidu caressed the silver lighter with his fingertips, a dark smile in his eyes as he said casually, "Not yet." This time, some fans were even selected to watch the ending banquet held by the director. Qin Yojiao and the rest were already doing their makeup backstage. Only Bae Yunj did not show up, nor did she have any intention of going on stage. When the director saw this, he turned a blind eye to it. Anyway, he couldn't leave any footage. When the time came, Bae Yunj would just have to participate in a simple segment to fool her. As soon as she arrived at the banquet, she heard the war zone personnel greeting each other. "Team Flower, why didn't you perform?" This form of address made Bae Yunja's eyes twitch unconsciously. She said lazily, "I'm not performing." Hearing this, the war zone personnel who originally wanted to watch Bae Yunja's performance were a little disappointed. The next moment, a handsome and delicate boy of the same age was pushed in front of her. They were also from the theater of operations. "Bae Yunj, can I talk to you in private?" The boy held his trousers nervously, But he didn't notice that someone was watching them not far away. Bae Yunj looked at the time and did not refuse. She followed him to a quieter place. However, the boy suddenly stammered. Bae Yunj, I like you. After his confession, the boy's face turned red and he looked very innocent. Bae Yunj narrowed her eyes calmly. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if you accept it or not. I just want a chance to pursue you. Chapter 570. Bae Yunj's eyebrows twitched. However, before she could say anything else, a familiar voice came from behind her. Yin. The moment Bae Yunj turned around, she saw the man walking towards her with his long legs. At this moment, Bae Yunj felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. She wondered if this man was going to question her about her puppy love the moment he opened his mouth. After all, this man had always treated her like a child. Suddenly, the man's deep and lazy voice sounded slowly. Is this a friend? Bae Yunj raised her eyebrows slightly and glanced at Hwashidu in surprise. Not long after, her gaze stopped on the boy who looked uneasy. She responded faintly, not intending to make the situation even more awkward. The moment he saw this man, he felt a sense of danger. This is my brother. However, the boy seemed to have made up his mind and asked tentatively, who is this gentleman? So it's my brother. However, the boy with slow EQ did not notice Hwashida's expression at all. Instead, he bowed respectfully to Hwashidu and said seriously, hello brother. Bae Yunj did not think too much about it and said casually. When the man heard this, his pale-colored eyes darkened. He looked straight at Bae Yunj and subconsciously licked the tip of his teeth. He took a deep breath and chuckled softly. The man's eyes were dark and seemed to be filled with unfathomable danger. Then he let out a faint snort. Are you still throwing a tantrum with your brother? Bae Yunj was speechless. Looking at this situation, she felt that the atmosphere was strange. What kind of conflict could these two have? Just as the boy was thinking, Hwashida chuckled again. His casual and low voice was blatantly seductive. Is Yunyan so unhappy because brother found a female companion last time? Hwashidu turned around and looked at Bae Yunj as if there were only the two of them in this scene. However, these words also aroused the boy's curiosity. Although Bae Yunj looked a little cold, he did not seem to have seen her quarrel with anyone before. Was this a brother complex? However, she didn't feel this way when she interacted with Chinyu before. The boy. He looked at Bae Yunj in disbelief. Apart from feeling that this sentence was strange, he also didn't expect Bae Yunj to be so possessive of his brother. Don't be unhappy. For Yunyan's sake, I won't find a girlfriend in the future. Hwashidu gently pinched Bae Yunj's cheek. When he let go, his fingers rubbed against it intimately. This made Bae Yunj unconsciously feel a trace of numbness in her heart. It was as if the residual warmth on her cheeks had a kind of burning ambiguity. What are you talking about? Bae Yunj's eyelids twitched. Did he not know whether his female companion was a woman or not? Now it was for her. Bae Yunj could not help but look at Hwashidu, wanting to pinch his face. However, Bae Yunj, who had just regained her senses, fell silent. This man made it sound so nice. She was the one who said that she didn't want to fall in love for 5 to 6 years. How could it be so thick? Yunyanj, aren't you going to let your brother find a girlfriend? A strange feeling rose in the boy's heart. He suddenly thought of some kind of orthopedic relationship, and his scalp turned numb unconsciously. However, when he looked up, he saw the man's handsome and dignified eyes. His figure was tall like jade, standing beside the bright and beautiful girl. Their auras were inexplicably compatible. Chapter 571. Bae Yunj. At this moment, Bae Yunj felt that Hwashidu was extremely childish. She would only be happy if he smeared her name. However, in the eyes of the boy, Bae Yunj's silence was a tacit agreement. This was no longer a problem of brother complex. Then, just as the boy mustered up his courage and wanted to save the girl who had a sick brother complex, he suddenly saw Hwashidu lift Bae Yunj's chin again. Yunyan, open your mouth and take a look. The man's fingers caressed the lower edge of her delicate lips gently and ambiguously. Brother, check if you've eaten anything these few days. Bae Yunj knew that Hwashidu was talking about her teeth, so she did not feel burdened and opened her mouth gently. However, from this angle, Hoshidu could not see her teeth clearly. The corners of his lips curled up, and his gaze swept over the crowd calmly and leisurely. And from this angle, in the eyes of the boy, they looked like a couple kissing. This made the boy's mind explode. He widened his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. However, his gaze landed on the man's dark eyes and the hand that was holding the little girl's chin. He did not hide his possessiveness towards this little girl. The boy reacted, and his face was a little pale as he stared blankly at the scene in front of him. Not long after, Bei Yunj and Hoshidu walked backstage to prepare for the livestream banquet. She glanced at the lounge with her name on it, pushed the door open and walked in. "Brother, why are you here today?" Bei Yunj glanced at him. If she did not know that Hoshidu often worked overtime, she would have thought that he had nothing to do. "To pick you up." Hoshidu glanced at the lounge. It was not very good. In fact, from what he knew, it was slightly simple and the space was not big. "I thought that Big Brother was here to spread rumors," said 101 Chinese. Bei Yunj laughed lazily. She glanced at the man standing by the door and knew that this man might be a little obsessed with cleanliness, and felt that this place was not very good. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj walked towards Hoshidu. "Are you uncomfortable here?" Hearing this, a dark look flashed across Hoshidu's eyes when he heard the sound of footsteps. He then glanced at the open door casually. He looked at the little girl in front of him who didn't have any good ideas. Suddenly, the corner of his lips curled up. His lazy voice dragged out, as if he was deliberately teasing people's eardrums. "No, I won't. With Union around, I feel comfortable." Bei Yunj. Why did everything this man said sound so lustful? At the thought of this, Bei Yunj looked up and saw the man standing lazily by the wall. His handsome and noble eyes were a little cynical, and her heart itched. Thus, the thoughts of the past 10 minutes appeared in his mind again. Suddenly, before he could react, the beautiful girl in front of him pressed him against the wall and boldly reached out to ravage the man's excessively handsome face. At the same time, the man who had confessed to Bei Yunj happened to see the girl he liked pushing the man he had just seen into the corner of the room when he opened the door. At this moment, the man's expression changed when he saw this scene through the crack of the door. Were they really in such a relationship? However, just as the man was still trying to deceive himself, he heard the man's deep and magnetic voice in the room. It was ambiguous and hoarse, and it made his ears burn. "Union, don't touch me." In an instant, the man was completely petrified. Chapter 572. He was stunned for a long time. Then he heard that familiar voice from inside. "Haven't you touched me?" The girl's clear voice sounded naturally, but the amount of information in her words was shocking. The boy's face could not be any stiffer. So they had been in such a relationship for a long time? Suddenly, he felt that this world was so sinful. Not long after, he gritted his teeth. He was still unwilling to accept this. He made up his mind to look inside and see more clearly. But when he pushed the door open a little more suddenly, the man, who was leaning lazily against the wall with a seductive gaze, grabbed Bei Yunj's slender and fair wrists. This stunned Bei Yunj. But before she could regain her senses, the man suddenly curled his thin lips. His Adam's apple rolled sexily as he let out a low laugh. Then the man suddenly held her hand and placed it on his neck. With a spin, Bei Yunj was pressed against the corner of the wall. "Brother!" Before Bei Yunj could say anything, the man suddenly hooked his arm around her waist and bent down. His warm breath sprayed beside her ear. A warm sensation gently pressed against her ear again. Bei Yunj trembled. Her thoughts instantly went blank as if she had been electrocuted. The boy who had just peeked and happened to see this scene. His entire body turned cold from the blow. He watched as the man lowered his head and did something to the girl's neck. "You." The boy's pupils constricted. Just as he was about to interrupt, Hoshidu suddenly closed the door without raising his head. This made the boy's expression change again and again. So this man had discovered him long ago and deliberately let him see this scene. When the boy regained his senses, he also thought of Hoshida's attitude towards him. He seemed to have been hostile from the beginning. Colorful Chinese until the boy left. Bei Yunj's heartbeat returned to normal. but the strange emotions that rose in her heart did not dissipate. Did Huashidu kiss her just now? Although this action was very sudden, Baiyunj didn't feel any disgust. Instead, she didn't dislike this man's closeness. However, Baiyunj suddenly felt a little embarrassed when she saw the man's gaze and the way he couldn't hide his smile. Huashidu. The man answered naturally, You don't seem to feel guilty at all. Baiyunj looked at him and said. It was as if he had never done such a thing. Huashidu tried his best to suppress the corners of his lips and cooperate with the young lady. Baiyunj looked at the man in front of her and said lazily, I feel quite guilty. Why couldn't she tell? So why did he suddenly do that just now? Baiyunj's mind raced as she looked at the bastard's face. She originally wanted to say some harsh words, but she changed her mind. Control yourself. When Huashidu heard this, the corners of his lips unconsciously curled up. He quickly lowered his head. Baiyunj originally thought that Huashidu had suddenly realized that there was something wrong with his behavior. However, before she could speak, she suddenly heard the man's low and hoarse chuckle. Baiyunj. All right, brother, control yourself. Yunyan will also understand, brother. The man's low and magnetic voice carried a teasing smile. It was extremely sexy. Chapter 573. Seeing the girl almost running away, the man chuckled hoarsely and suppressed the desire that had arisen inadvertently. Just now he almost could not help but continue. However, Baiyunj did not notice the dark look in the man's eyes. On the way, suddenly, a voice sounded in surprise. Master Pei? Master Pei, what's wrong? You seem to be blushing. Huasun happened to meet Baiyunj and sized her up in disbelief. Baiyunj hummed indifferently, still thinking about her own matters. But in the next second, Huasun was even more curious and quickened his steps to follow behind Baiyunj. Master Pei, what's wrong? Seeing that Huasun was about to start nagging, Baiyunj looked at him with a faint smile. What? You're not done, are you? Huasun immediately shut up and did not dare to follow her. He only stared fixedly at the person leaving in front of him. However, Qin Youjiao, who happened to see this scene, had a dark glint in her eyes as she walked towards Huasun. Did Yunj say something to you just now? Her tone seems to be quite bad when she talks to you. Huh? Hasn't she always been like this? Huasun glanced at her and did not notice anything strange. Qin Youjiao's eyes darkened and she said with a smile. That's true. She's like this. She doesn't seem to take anyone seriously. At this moment, Qin Youjiao looked up and saw Huasun still staring at Baiyunj's back. She could not help calling out, Huasun. Suddenly, after Huasun regained his senses, he could not help sighing. How arrogant. You're a man. In an instant, Qin Youjiao's expression darkened. Seeing Huasun turn to look at her, she had no choice but to force an ugly smile, but her fists were clenched tightly. This trash even said that he would stand up for her back then. In the end, ever since Baiyunj snatched his money, Huasun had been trying to build a good relationship with Baiyunj. There were many people at the banquet. The instructor, who had always been cold to them, also smiled happily. This made the others feel that the instructor was really happy to send them off today. The guests who participated in the variety show also felt that they had finally endured this hellish training and could perform well at the banquet. Hence, at the closing banquet, the performances of the guests were more eye-catching than the other. Especially after the director borrowed a very good piano. The audience quieted down and listened to her play seriously. Until Qin Youjiao's performance ended, the comments section was filled with comments. What a fairy Qin Youjiao. When she plays the piano, her temperament is too good. Yu Jiao is so pretty. That was the best performance of the night. I like it. I have to say, Qin Youjiao's performance was very good from beginning to end. Even the instructor said that Qin Youjiao was very hardworking. Unlike a certain someone, the instructor didn't even care about her anymore. However, seeing so many comments praising Qin Youjiao, some people were not so happy. F***ck, a certain fan is too good at bragging, right? When Baiyunj was shooting, why was a certain fan as quiet as a chicken? Speaking of which, it's really strange. There's really a problem with Baeyeonja's scenes after that. Best of the night? Brother, you hasn't even started performing, and you're already bragging? F***ck, F***ck, F***ck. Why are people still arguing? Look at the man in the white shirt in the second row. He's so handsome. Is he really not an artiste? Chapter 574. Hearing this, many people furrowed their eyebrows. Not long after, some netizens who felt that it was ridiculous laughed mockingly. They had just typed a line of words, and had yet to send it out. Suddenly, a handsome and noble eyebrows flashed across the screen. A few seconds later, someone in the comments section was about to go crazy. Ah, who is this young man? He's too handsome. Woo-woo, Sister Chiu-Chiu, give me a detailed information. I suddenly want to chase after celebrities. Another godlike face? Does the production team have so much funding? Did they spend money to hire him? Ooh, he's really good looking. I thought he was a tyrant in reality. After a long time, no one in the livestream could tell who the man who had flashed past the screen for only a second was. Some of the netizens, who were so anxious and curious, were about to scratch their ears and cheeks. Where did this man come from? In fact, in that second, even Hwashidu, who was sitting in the second row, did not even glance over. He only raised his eyebrows slightly. His lazy and carefree attitude was enough to leave a deep impression on others. It inexplicably stirred up one's hormones. However, after that second, no one saw Hwashidu for more than half an hour. At this moment, after Chin-yu got off the stage, he quickly noticed Hwashidu and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Then he got his exclusive cameraman to stop filming and walked in front of Hwashidu. Master Du, why are you here? Chin-yu sat beside Hwashidu and asked curiously. To watch your performance. Hwashidu said slowly. Hearing this, Chin-yu was silent for a long time before he regained his senses. To watch our performance? Chin-yu felt that it was very suspicious. Then he could not help but look at Baeyeonja, who was in the first row. Looking at the distance between the two of them, he seemed to understand something. Don't tell me you two had a fight? Chin-yu's tone was a little gloating. This made Hwashidu glance at him carelessly with his pale-colored eyes. After hearing Hwashidu admit it, Chin-yu's vanity was inexplicably satisfied. Is that so? Actually, you might not know this, but too many things have happened between and me during this period of time. I keep feeling that and I have become much closer. Chin-yu sighed. Hwashidu did not intend to expose him either. He only looked at Baeyeonja's back without hiding it. About 5 minutes later, Chin-yu suddenly placed his hand on Hwashidu's shoulder. This action made Hwashidu's eyes darken unconsciously, and he glanced at Chin-yu leisurely. However, at the thought of Chin-yu's identity, she had to get along with him in the future, so she didn't say much to him. Brothers, maybe not real brothers. That's how it is. How about this? I'll give you some personal space later, so you can perform well. Chin-yu's tone was filled with pride. Hwashidu's eyes landed on Chin-yu. He chuckled and replied lazily, sure. Good luck. Chin-yu patted Hwashidu's shoulder encouragingly. He had no idea how Hwashidu had been alone with his an hour ago. Master Pei? Master Pei, are you ready? Hwasun suddenly asked eagerly. Ready for what? Baeyeonja raised an eyebrow and glanced at him. We have a live event. Have you forgotten? Chapter 575. Hearing this, Baeyeonja looked away and continued to fight with Chu Zhixing and the rest. I didn't sign up. Hwasun was speechless. Look at the program list. Hearing this, Baeyeonja finally noticed that everyone else had a program list in their hands. After regaining her senses, Baeyeonja realized that she might be in the lounge. Baeyeonja was speechless. At this moment, seeing that Baeyeonja was silent, the corners of Hwasun's mouth twitched and he handed the program list to Baeyeonja. Baeyeonja glanced at it and saw the last column. Question and answer segment. Hosts, Baeyeonja, Hwasun. Baeyeonja was speechless. Seeing Baeyeonja and Hwasun go on stage, Yunhua happened to walk back and sat beside Chin-yu. Where did you go just now? Chin-yu asked. Yunhua laughed out loud. Her eyes swept past Baeyeonja, who was in front of her, and she said meaningfully, "Isn't it about to end? Since you're here, you should do something else." With that said, a dark look flashed past Qin Yojiao's eyes. She could guess what Yun Nua had gone to do just now. The corners of her lips curled up. "Sit down. Let's continue watching the show." The two of them waited for the show to start. Hua Sun stood in front and received the questions written on the notes by the audience. On Bei Yunji's side, because of the inexplicable pressure, no one dared to give it to her. "Why isn't anyone giving it to me?" Bei Yunji asked unconsciously. Hua Sun was speechless. "Who would dare to give it to you when you have an don't touch me expression?" The people below the stage could not hear what Bei Yunji and Hua Sun were talking about, but seeing the two of them looking at each other in silence, they felt inexplicably happy. "Ha ha 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 ha. Why do I like Bei Yunji and Hua Sun so much?" Don't say Hua Sun is really good at variety shows. Although Master Pei has the aura of a big boss, when you're on camera with Hua Sun, it feels like you're watching a comedy. Wu Wuj and Sun are a couple. However, although the comments kept flooding the comments, no one thought that someone would personally break their dream of a couple. On the stage, Pei Huaxuan gave Bei Yunji 15 notes, and kept 15 for herself. The two of them read the contents of the notes one after another. When the questions were asked, the guests would be invited to the stage to interact with each other. If someone asked him a question, he would answer it himself. However, when Hua Sun saw the next few questions in his hand, he unconsciously frowned and a trace of coldness flashed across his eyes. This time, the audience members had all signed a contract, forbidding anyone from being on the stage. But he had at least 3 pieces of paper in his hand, all of which were related to Bei Yunji. Their questions were all extremely harsh. It was obvious that they were targeting Bei Yunji. Hua Sun took a deep breath and put the notes behind him. He asked a few other questions first. When the other guests went on stage to speak, he told Bei Yunji about it. The purpose of these notes was obviously to embarrass Bei Yunji in public. Bei Yunji hid the coldness in her eyes as the corners of her lips curled up into a faint smile. She played with the remaining note in her hand. Yun Nua, who was below the stage, also noticed that Bei Yunji and Hua Sun must be discussing how to solve this problem. She couldn't help but look smug. But who knew, after the guests went on stage and finished speaking, everyone realized that there was a sudden change in the way they interacted. Hua Sun was going to randomly pick someone to go on stage and ask questions. When the audience heard this, they started to talk. Wasn't this depriving them of their rights? But then, just as someone was about to stand up and speak, the people in the second row suddenly stood up. P.S. Good night, continue tomorrow morning. Good girls, remember to vote. Chapter 576. This stunned Hua Sun for a moment. When he saw the man's appearance clearly, he was even more stunned. Was this man the boyfriend of some guest? Hua Sun had seen all kinds of people, and could naturally tell that the man in front of him was not simple. He couldn't be someone's fan, right? At this thought, Hua Sun still maintained his composure. After letting the man come up, he probed. Are you a fan? Huashidu glanced at Hua Sun carelessly. His thin eyes were filled with elegance as he replied without looking away. Hearing this, Hua Sun was shocked. A man of this level was king chasing idols. Who was so important? Hua Sun could not help but size up Huashidu. The handmade shirt on this person seemed to cost him a month's living expenses. Who are you chasing? Hua Sun blurted out instinctively. On the other hand, the female fans present could not control their girlish hearts and excited screams. Why was Hua Sun so troublesome? They had just fallen in love with a little brother, and he wanted their house to collapse so quickly? It had to be said. The moment Huashidu stood on the stage, his handsome eyes were filled with indifference and laziness. The sleeves of his white shirt were rolled up loosely under his elbows and his suit pants were too straight, making him look even more refined and dignified. Huashidu's eyes swept past him and finally landed on Bei Yunji beside him. The corners of his lips curled up and his low voice sounded. I'm chasing after the lady beside you. With that said, the fans present were about to explode as screams rose and fell. What kind of sweet public confession was this? Wasn't this too much? A large-scale dog slaughtering scene. Yunj was speechless. Below the stage, Qin Yu had yet to realize that something was wrong. He only felt that fans nowadays love to imagine things. How was it possible for Gu and Master Du? It was impossible in their next life, let alone their next life. Qin Yu chuckled and continued watching the show with his arms crossed. However, on the other side, Yin Nua's expression changed when she saw that the person on stage was actually Huashidu. Why would Master Du come to this place? Could it be? Was it really for Bai Yunj? Last time, at the Qin family's old residence, Yin Nua could tell that Huashidu treated Bai Yunj differently. However, she had always thought that it was just a momentary feeling of novelty. After all, Bai Yunj did have the looks to back her up. Why would Master Du come all the way here? Moreover, he didn't mind coming up on stage and being discussed by others. Hua-sun felt that the situation was getting out of hand. The bullet screen was also filled with Awei is dead. Suddenly, Huashido chuckled softly. His lazy voice was extremely seductive. Miss Pei, will you give me a chance to woo her? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. And this time, the voices of the female fans were deafening and frightening. The comments were even more intense. F***CK, 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 F***CK. Why is this man so good at what I like? Is this little brother flirting with Master Pei? My Master Pei didn't say anything. She didn't say anything. Master Pei has tacitly agreed that they can get married now. Please get married on the spot, okay? The scene was very noisy. Bai Yunj's lips twitched unconsciously. She did not know what this man was trying to do. However, when Hua-sun sensed the strange atmosphere, he immediately smiled. Chapter 577. Come. Then let's continue reading the questions on the note. Hua-sun had just blurted out when he suddenly realized that he had messed up the matter. He had called someone up just now to ask them questions. But now he was letting others read the note. Wasn't he making things worse? No, let's. Hua-sun was about to change his words when Hoshida took the note. He looked down carelessly and opened the note with his slender and well-defined hands. However, after seeing the contents, there was a deep coldness in his eyes, but the audience below the stage did not notice it. Sir Yu. Hoshidu slowly folded the note again. His thin eyelids were half lifted, and his gaze landed on Bai Yunj. Suddenly, the man's thin red lips curled up. I have a question for our Miss Pei. Before anyone could react, everyone saw the man staring straight at the bright and beautiful girl in front of him, and chuckling softly. His magnetic voice was light and flirtatious. What type of boy do you like? Do you like brother? As soon as he finished speaking, almost all the girls who were chasing after celebrities could not help but scream excitedly. They could not control their young hearts that were about to jump out. F***CK. Brother is so flirtatious. This is the first time I've seen such a good man. Sob, is he a domineering CEO who walked out of the movie? Is there a fanfic? I want to chase after him. Ha. Our Master Pei is dumbfounded. She's too cute standing there looking at little brother. Bai Yunj suppressed the inexplicable beating of her heart and glanced at the man in front of her, who still had a natural expression. She suddenly smiled. Brother, I don't fall in love early. With that said, however, the sense of a couple did not decrease. Instead, it increased. Brother, Master Pei means to get married after high school. The president of Qin Yu's fan club was already shouting at the top of his lungs. Everyone on the scene heard it loud and clear. Bai Yunj was speechless. Qin Yu was even more confused and his handsome face did not look too good. Which eye of hers could tell that her liked Master Du? Hoshida chuckled and did not speak. He only gestured to her with his eyes. It was as if he was saying, so you want to get married? Bai Yunj. Wasn't this dog man getting more and more overboard? At this moment, below the stage, Qin Yu finally felt a sense of danger. He felt that something was wrong, and immediately went to find the director. Hurry up and let Hua-sun continue. My sister is only in her second year of high school. What are you guys doing? It was the director's first time seeing Qin Yu's expression darken. He immediately used the walkie-talkie to speak to Hua Sun. Soon, Hua Sun changed the topic. However, the interaction between Bei Yunj and the mysterious man was still unstoppable and became a hot topic. However, it only took about 20 minutes to completely suppress it. Usually, even if the news was suppressed, there would still be big accounts that were not afraid of death. But now, as long as it was related to Bei Yunj, it was as if the higher-ups had issued some kind of order and deleted it very quickly. The trending searches disappeared. Qin Yu also felt slightly uneasy, afraid that Huashidu would really fall in love with his ge. Huashidu was outstanding and even incomparable to his peers. But how old was his ge? Chapter 578. After leaving the stage, Huashidu watched as Bei Yunj left, the smile on his lips disappearing. His originally indifferent and lazy eyes were now filled with an inhuman coldness. Master Du. Sung Su, who had rushed over, called out carefully. Go and investigate. If you can't, I'll put the blame on you. Huashidu placed the note on the table beside him, his voice cold. The moment he finished speaking, he saw Qin Yu walking over. Master Du, I have something to tell you. Qin Yu's expression was dark. Huashidu glanced at him slowly and said to Tsung Su, go and investigate first. Okay. After Tsung Su left, Qin Yu saw that there was only him and Huashidu present. He gritted his teeth and asked, have you taken a fancy to my sister? Instead, Huashidu's lips curved. There was no panic on his face and his tone was still light. Why do you ask? I keep feeling that there's something wrong with your question just now. Qin Yu's ink-like handsome eyes were filled with seriousness. However, after Huashidu glanced at him, he only laughed casually. He asked, are you wooing your sister? Yes. She's still a high school student. Can I do it? The man's well-defined hand took out a cigarette from the cigarette box carelessly. The way he bit the cigarette was exceptionally lustful. The white smoke curled up and the half-hidden emotions in the man's eyes could not be seen. Hearing this, Qin Yu suddenly realized something. Yes. Master Du was not such a person. However, Qin Yu was still cautious. Really? Huashida's thin lips curled up and he answered without any psychological pressure. Bookstore. So Qin Yu finally heaved a sigh of relief. He knew it. Why would Master Du do such a thing? After that, Bei Yunj wanted to find a hotel nearby, but she suddenly received a call from Tich. After chatting for a while, Bei Yunj decided to meet Tich at the hotel address he had booked. In the hotel lobby, Bei Yunj had just entered when she sat on the sofa in the waiting area. She glanced at her watch and calculated the time. However, at this time, a waiter hurried over and said with a smile, Miss, we won't be entertaining guests after 10 o'clock today. If you want to stay here, you have to book a room first. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched, but she felt that this hotel was not bad, so she nodded and followed the waiter to the front desk to register. When Bei Yunj took off her hat and mask and revealed her face, the waiters who met Bei Yunj's eyes were all stunned. Wasn't this girl too good-looking? After Bei Yunj checked all the information, she narrowed her eyes and wrote the registration form with a pen in her slender, fair hand. Her lazy eyes were bright and lazy. Is that enough? Only then did the waiter react. He immediately nodded vigorously. Yes. Thank you. Bei Yunj took the room card and walked to the lounge. Another waiter said softly, she's probably here to try her luck. This doesn't feel like it. She booked a presidential suite and swiped her card without even blinking. The waiter who had just received Bei Yunj spoke up for Bei Yunj. After all, although many young models and internet celebrities had come to stay with them today, most of them asked about the price of the top-floor suite in their hotel, and did not say anything else. Those two rich second-generation heirs naturally stayed on the highest floor. If others wanted to get close to such people, they naturally wanted to get as close as possible. Chapter 579. However, this made sense. Who didn't want to marry into a wealthy family? Moreover, those two rich second-generation heirs weren't ordinary second-generation heirs, but the top second-generation heirs of our nation. That girl looked like that, and had indeed grasped a man's weakness. Thinking of this, The waiter felt jealous, but he didn't say anything that didn't suit his status. However, at this moment, other than the waiter, there were also people in the corridor on the second floor looking at Bei Yunj downstairs. They had the same thoughts as the waiter. Miss Yen, that woman is probably after young Master Tich. A beautiful woman beside her said with a mean look in her eyes. At Tich's age, there are indeed a lot of girls throwing themselves at him. The person called Miss Yen was wearing a cheongsam and had a graceful figure. However, in the next moment, her voice was filled with natural arrogance as she slowly walked downstairs. But how can such a woman be worthy of Tich? The beautiful woman glanced at her and hid the sarcasm in her eyes. Didn't Yen Hurwei climb into Delaney's bed like this back then? She slept with a man who was older than her at the age of 21, and always treated herself as the main wife. But it was good. With this woman, she would have less trouble. Lin Qianni followed Yen Hurwei's footsteps and watched as Yen Hurwei stopped in front of Bei Yunj and sized up Bei Yunj arrogantly. "What's your name?" When Bei Yunj heard this, her eyebrows moved without batting an eyelid. She glanced at the woman in front of her who was dressed like a nouveau riche. "What's the matter?" Bei Yunj's voice was lazy and indifferent, and her gaze didn't linger on her. When Yen Hurwei saw that Bei Yunj's table had a presidential suite card, and that the clothes she was wearing looked like a high-end foreign brand, she couldn't help but feel an indescribable jealousy. Everything she had now was given to her by the man she had spent so much effort to hook up with. But the girl in front of her was obviously not. Yen Hurwei narrowed her eyes and laughed again. She sat opposite Bei Yunj and crossed her legs, revealing the snow-white skin on her thighs. "Which family are you from?" Now, Yen Hurwei treated Bei Yunj as a young lady with a decent family background. However, he would still have to be like her, hooking up with the super rich. At the same time, Bei Yunj could not help but frown when she saw the message that Tich had sent her, saying that he would definitely arrive within 10 minutes. So why was he looking for her in the middle of the night? Bei Yunj suppressed her impatience and sent another message to Tich. However, when this scene landed in Yen Hurwei's eyes, it was undisguised contempt. Yen Hurwei's expression changed and she sneered. "Are you pretending to be so virtuous? Then who are you waiting for in the middle of the night?" As soon as he finished speaking, Bei Yunj's eyes gradually turned cold, but her moist red lips curled up slightly. She looked at her with a faint smile, looking cold and ruthless. "Why are you talking so much? Do you think your days are too long?" Yen Hurwei accidentally met Bei Yunj's eyes and felt her scalp go numb. But when she came back to her senses, she felt that she had lost face. She stood up in exasperation. "Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Waiting for someone?" Chapter 580. At this moment, Tich, who was speeding over on his motorcycle, suddenly sneezed. Delaney, who was behind him, immediately covered his mouth and nose, as if a virus had passed through him. "Can't you tell me this in advance?" Tich's eyelids twitched. "You were the one who heard about my teacher and suddenly shamelessly wanted to see her." "I said you sneezed. What if I catch a cold?" Delaney said self-righteously. Tich was speechless. Most fathers would be afraid that their children would catch a cold when they saw them sneeze, right? All of a sudden, Tich wanted to turn around and send this person back. But thinking that Bei Yunj was still waiting for him, he endured it. A few minutes later, the moment Tich brought Delaney in, he saw a beauty who was crying so hard that she bumped into his arms. Seeing this, Tich frowned and dodged to the side. At this moment, Yen Hurwei realized that she had almost thrown herself at the wrong person. Her face was green and red. Then, she ran in front of Delaney and hugged his waist intimately. It had to be said that although Delaney was in his 40s or 50s, he only looked like he was in his early 30s. His figure was still perfect and capable. Even in her 40s or 50s, Yen Hurwei did not lose out much. "Darling, a woman hit me just now because I said a few more words." Delaney had always been protective of the fairer sex. Seeing that Yen Hurwei's face was indeed red, he could not help but touch her face. He comforted her. "You're not disfigured. Don't worry." Yen Hurwei's face froze. Then she said coquettishly, "You said you loved me last time, but now you don't feel sorry for me at all." Hearing this, Delaney realized that Yen Harue was beating around the bush to get him to help her vent her anger. Delaney agreed. Bring me to take a look at the situation first. If that woman really went overboard, he would naturally protect Yen Harue. After all, Yen Harue was his woman, although she was just his new girlfriend. However, Tich was disdainful when he saw this scene. Yen Harue was the one who thought the most. She thought that Delaney would marry her and treat her as a junior. What a joke. Who didn't know that Delaney's girlfriend wouldn't last more than 3 months? At the thought of this, Tich felt that this woman had embarrassed his teacher. They grew up in the same place, but he couldn't even compare to a strand of his teacher's hair. Thinking of this, Tich couldn't be bothered to deal with the two of them. He simply went to look for Bei Yunj. Tich's eyes lit up when he saw the figure in the living room. He immediately walked over to Bei Yunj and greeted her cautiously. Bei Yunj glanced at him casually. He didn't seem to be in high spirits either. Teacher, you don't seem to be in a good mood today. Tich probed carefully. Could it be that he had been sitting here for too long and was angry with her? At this moment, Lin Qianni's eyes lit up when she saw Yen Herui's message. She planned to look for Tich. She didn't expect Tich to be sitting next to Bei Yunj. They looked very close. Lin Qianni's expression immediately changed. Did this woman really hook up with Tich? After a long time, Lin Qianni finally snapped out of her daze. She gritted her teeth and sent Yen Harue a text. When Yen Harue saw this text message, she was also furious. How could a woman be so scheming? Tich had only been in there for a short while, and she had already hooked up with him. Yen Harue sneered. She didn't even see if she was worthy. Chapter 581. What's wrong, my dear? Delaney was still a little patient with his female companion. My dear, that woman seems to have designs on Tich. Yen Harue bit her lip and said coquettishly. Delaney paused when he heard that. He did not expect Tich to have such a market these days. Then, before Delaney could finish, Yen Harue pulled him back and refused to let him go. You said you would help me deal with her. When did he say such a thing? However, Delaney still maintained the silence of a big shot. After thinking for a while, he nodded reservedly and brought Yen Harue in. Seeing this, Yen Harue smiled through her tears. On the other side, Bei Yunj sat downstairs drinking water. Tich, who was beside her, threw her a math problem from time to time, trying to divert Bei Yunj's attention and change her mood. However, Bei Yunj could not help but take another look at Tich. Tich. When Tich heard Bei Yunj suddenly call his name, he thought that his teacher had a whole new level of respect for him because he solved the problem too quickly. What's wrong? Tich suppressed his pounding heart. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj only looked at him with a complicated expression. You're so bad at math. There will be limitations when you learn computer science in the future. Tich was speechless. Fine. He was thinking too much. The thought of his teacher being nominated for both Farisk and Busaka at such a young age, and even solving 1,000 questions made him doubt his life. How could someone be so smart? Tich didn't know that when he shone in school, his classmates also thought the same way. However, when Tich thought that such a powerful person was his teacher, he started to get excited again. He asked shyly, Teacher, what do you think of me? Bei Yunj continued to dig into the cake with her fork without looking up. What? Just, when do you think I can win a Busaka prize? Tich immediately said. Bei Yunj stopped eating the cake and was silent for a long time. Tich, I'm glad that you know how to improve yourself. Before Tich could rejoice, he heard Bei Yunj say, but don't make things difficult for me. Tich, study hard. You'll get everything you want. Bei Yunj was probably afraid that Tich would be frustrated, so she added, I'll try my best to get you on the right track as soon as possible. Bei Yunj thought that Tich was hinting for her to teach faster. But with Tich and Jasmine's level, she would have to lay down the foundation for them for at least a few years. Tich did not expect that in Bei Yunj's eyes, he had not even entered the right path of his profession. After that, just as Tich was unable to recover from the blow, he suddenly heard a harsh and familiar voice. Honey, look, it's this woman. How dare she hit me? Tich frowned. He looked up and saw Yen Herui's pretentious look. He narrowed his eyes and sneered. Miss Yen, who are you complaining about? Honey, look, Tich has only interacted with this woman for a while, and he's already helping her. Yen Hurwei bit her lip, but her eyes were filled with viciousness. She had to make this woman pay the price. However, Yen Hurwei did not notice that Delaney's gaze was also on the person sitting on the sofa. He looked at this familiar face and suppressed his inexplicable excitement. He was also a little afraid of disturbing Bei Yunj. Delaney probed carefully. Why? Teacher Pei? Love House. Bei Yunj only looked up when she heard the familiar voice. When she saw Delaney, she could not help but frown. Why are you here? Delaney's excited smile froze. What should he say? Should he say that he forced Tich to help him ask her out, because she had been ignoring him? I think the scenery here is not bad. As soon as Delaney finished speaking, the woman beside him still could not see the situation clearly. Yen Hurwei widened her eyes and said unhappily, Honey, didn't you say you would help me teach her a lesson? Why are you? Shut up. Delaney's eyelids twitched in fright. Teach her a lesson? Did he not want to work in the company anymore? Was that why he wanted to teach the god of fortune that he had painstakingly relied on his son to get close to? Delaney. Yen Hurwei could not believe that Delaney would treat her like this. Then Delaney pulled Yen Hurwei's hand away from his, and walked towards Bei Yunj to pour some tea for Bei Yunj. Teacher Pei, I really didn't expect to have the chance to see you. Bei Yunj also looked at him. I didn't expect this either. Delaney's heart ached. This was the first time he met someone who could not even be bothered to lie to him. So Bei Yunj really did not plan to see him? Is this your girlfriend? At this moment, Bei Yunj looked up and suddenly asked casually. Delaney froze. He really did not expect Yen Hurwei to be so bold as to provoke Bei Yunj. I did hit her, Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. Tich, who was beside him, looked down and did not intend to interfere at all. Anyway, when it came to his teacher, his father was more cowardly than anyone else. It had to be said that Tich knew Delaney very well. Honey, look. She really attacked me. Yen Hurwei still refused to give up. She did not have any foresight at all. Delaney's expression did not look too good either. He did not expect a woman to be so stupid. Miss Yen, you can leave now. He would definitely side with Bei Yunj. However, he also knew Bei Yunj's personality very well. If she had not provoked him, Bei Yunj would not have looked at Yen Hurwei. Delaney, are you breaking up with me? Yen Hurwei's eyes immediately turned red. Lin Qianni, who had walked down from upstairs, originally wanted to see Yen Hurwei deal with Bei Yunj, but she did not expect to hear that Yen Hurwei was going to be broken up in public. Lin Qianni froze and instinctively looked at the few people not far away. I don't need a female companion who sows discord, Delaney said coldly. He did not even admit that he had a girlfriend. Yen Hurwei's face turned pale, and her mind was in a mess. She did not expect Delaney to break up with her because of this. At this moment, Yen Hurwei then realized that Delaney had been calling this person teacher, a person who Delaney called teacher. She originally thought that it might be someone who had taught Tich before. But on second thought, Tich was a few years older than this girl. If this was Tich's teacher, it would be too unbelievable. Moreover, Tich was a student of Neely University. Chapter 582. When Bei Yunj heard this, she immediately understood why Tich had asked her out at this time. She glanced at Tich and did not say anything. She did not mind satisfying her student's little thoughts. Not long after, Tich heard the person beside him say lazily, "Next time, you can be more direct with me." She might not reject him. It was just that she was too lazy to socialize and maintain interpersonal relationships. Tich was stunned when he heard this. Then complicated and touched emotions rose in his heart, and his face heated up. "Teacher, I'm sorry." He thought that with Bei Yunj's personality, she would definitely be angry or ask him to change his mentor. He did not expect Bei Yunj to say this. "I'll get you more cake." Tich saw that Bei Yunj was about to finish the cake in her hands, so he stood up diligently and ran to the restaurant at the back. At this moment, only Delaney and the others were left. Delaney looked up and met Bei Yunj's eyes. Miss Pei. Delaney, I was wrong. I didn't know she knew you. Yen Hui interrupted Delaney and finally reacted. She realized that this person was not to be trifled with. However, Delaney, who was afraid of offending Bei Yunj, could not reconcile with this woman. Delaney took out a check and gave it to Yen Hui. Sorry, we're not suitable for each other. Yen Hui's face was pale. She could not help but look at Bei Yunj, feeling indignant. Was Delaney going to break up with her just because she was a teacher? However, she could clearly tell that Delaney's attitude towards her was very careful. Even Tich's attitude towards this girl did not seem like he had feelings for his sweetheart. Instead, there was an inexplicable respect. When Delaney and Bei Yunj went to the conference room on the second floor to discuss matters, Yen Hui was still unwilling to leave. How could she give up on the sugar daddy that she had painstakingly hooked up with? However, because Delaney's bodyguard stopped her, she could not get close. She could only wait downstairs with a breakdown. How could this be? When Yen Hui thought of what Bei Yunj had said to her just now, her face turned even paler. This girl was really waiting for someone. She was waiting for Tich and the others, however. She thought that this girl was trying to cling to the rich and powerful, so she kept ridiculing her to find a sense of accomplishment. Now it's all good. In the end, she had offended someone she shouldn't have offended, and all her efforts were in vain. Second floor. Miss Pei, she has offended you. In the future, I won't use her for anything related to the company. Don't worry. Yen Hui was a C-list artiste. Recently, because of Delaney, she had received a lot of resources and became a familiar face on the screen. But now, Delaney did not have the courage to continue supporting Yen Hui. There was a reason why Delaney was popular with women in the circle. He doted on women and was generous. Even if they broke up, he would still miss their old relationship. But this time it was clearly different. Mr. Delaney, you won't gain anything by doing this. Bei Yunj said leisurely without hiding anything. Since Delaney had such plans, she would not plead for Yen Hui. Whatever he wanted to do had nothing to do with her. She would not put an effort on unimportant people. She had gotten back what she wanted. Of course, I understand. Delaney felt his teeth ache, but fortunately he already knew that this person was difficult to please. Are you looking for me because of the project? I've already handed it to Marcus. Bei Yunj said unhurriedly. It's our first time meeting, so I should congratulate you first. Congratulations to Miss Pei for being nominated for 2 awards this year. Delaney smiled with a rosy face, looking very happy. Back then, it was his discerning eyes that had discovered Bei Yunj's potential. As a matter of fact, in everyone's eyes, the first project was taken by him. However, when he thought of the girl's age, his scalp turned numb. She was not even 20 years old. In the future, if Bei Yunj grew up, Country A's computing field would definitely be an unprecedented scene. At the thought of this, Delaney felt that Jones, who had been fired after a month, should be dragged out and shot. It would be more worth the loss of Country R. There's no need to say anything nice. What's the matter? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and asked. Actually, Delaney looked at Bei Yunj and blurted out. I want to ask about Tich. Bei Yunj paused and looked at Delaney. She thought that Delaney was here for her new project. After all, she could tell that Delaney was an absolutely mature businessman. I know that you want to stay in Yincheng to develop. To you, Tich is just an intern at Country R's Computing Institute. But as Tich's father, I want to ask you if there's still a chance for you to continue taking care of Tich? It's fine even if Tich stays in Yincheng. Delaney had already discussed this matter with Marcus. If Tich had the ability to follow Bei Yunj, his future would definitely be limitless. Just because of this? There was no emotion on Bei Yunj's face as she asked casually. Delaney was a little nervous. After all, his ex-girlfriend had just offended Bei Yunj. Yes. If they're willing to learn, there's nothing I can't do. Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Delaney was very touched. Then he heard her say, although their aptitude is a little lacking, hard work can make up for it. Delaney said, you're right. He had heard about it before. Bei Yunj was very popular in Country R's Computing Institute, and all the interns chose to let Bei Yunj teach a class. In the end, after that, No one dared to let Bei Yunj teach a class. Only Tich and Jasmine, who had some kind of self-torture mentality, became braver the more they were defeated. So you mean you agree? Delaney asked carefully again. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. Let's wait for them to graduate before coming to Yincheng. I'll talk to Marcus and let the two of them stay in their institute for a while. Okay, I'll listen to you. Delaney nodded repeatedly. Bei Yunj looked at him for a while and laughed. I thought you wanted to talk to me about the new project. I did. Delaney was a little helpless. But ever since you left Country R's Computing Institute, Tich has been quite nervous. He was afraid that you would leave, so he didn't bring him along. No wonder the reports have been submitted so quickly recently. Bei Yunj nodded. Delaney was speechless. All right, I'm going upstairs to rest. You can talk to the manager of the Computing Institute about the new project. With that, Bei Yunj went upstairs. At this moment, Delaney turned around and saw his son's touched face. Dad. Goosebumps rose all over Delaney's body. Why is this troublesome thing here? P.S. There's more. Chapter 583. Upstairs. Bei Yunj had just finished showering when she saw the messages the two of them had sent her. After replying, she called Huashidu again before preparing to rest. At this moment, downstairs, the man had just arrived at the lobby and attracted the attention of the two ladies at the front desk. She originally thought that Tich and Jasmine, who had come in the past 2 days, were enough to shock people with their looks. In the end, this man in front of her completely matched their standards of beauty. Suite K1209's room card. Sung Soo walked forward and said familiarly. Hearing this, the lady at the front desk froze. A room card that started with K12. This was reserved for people in President Yu's circle. She had always heard that K1201 was reserved for President Yu, and K1209 was reserved for that person from the Hua family. At this thought, the lady at the front desk did not dare to breathe too loudly. After verifying his identity, she immediately brought him to the 12th floor. In the elevator, Sung Soo hurriedly tore off Bei Yunj's dining habits from his small notebook and handed it to the lady at the front desk as he said with a smile. The guest from 1205. Please prepare for tomorrow morning's meal. Okay. The lady at the front desk nodded immediately, but her heart was surging. Wasn't the guest from 1205 the young lady from just now? It's been hard on you. Our young lady doesn't stay outside much. I'm afraid she won't be used to it. Sung Soo smiled. It's not hard at all. From Sung Soo's address and attitude towards that young lady, the lady at the front desk could tell that that young lady did not have a shameful identity. She was simply a pampered young lady from a wealthy family. Until they entered the study of the suite, Sung Soo finally spoke. Master Du, we've found out about Miss Pei. The person who did this is Miss Yin Nua. The Yin family had nothing to do with the Hua family, but they had always been on good terms with the Qin family. Miss Qin Yojiao was probably the reason why they could do this. Seeing that Huashidu did not speak, Sung Soo asked carefully, Then should we arrange something? Sung Soo was a little uncertain. After all, Huashidu and Yin Nua knew each other because of Qin Yu. However, Bei Yunja's position in Huashidu's heart was even more obvious. Soon, Huashidu lit a cigarette and leaned against the chair lazily. His handsome eyes were cold and abstinent. His voice was low and indifferent, but it was unreasonable. If the Yin family can't teach their daughter how to behave, then let someone teach the Yin family how to behave. Sung Soo's body stiffened when he heard this. Who would have thought that Master Du would directly make a move on the Yin family? Because of this matter. He didn't care about their previous nodding acquaintance. Then about Miss Yin Nua. Sung Soo asked carefully. In the future, I don't want her to have any chance to meet my child again. The man's tone was casual. However, Sung Soo understood Huashida's intentions. He wanted Promise Yin to leave the industry. Sung Soo nodded and smiled. Yes, I know what to do. Since they dared to touch their young miss, they should be taught a lesson. At noon the next day, all the major media outlets fought to report about how the female star Yin Nua relied on her family background, faked her academic qualifications, and bullied others in high school. When Promise Yun saw the news, he panicked and immediately realized who was behind it. Nuo, quickly contact your father. The company's public relations can't suppress the popularity at all, and those media outlets refused to delete it. Under the urging of her manager, she hurriedly made a call and cried, "Dad, save me. Yun Nuo, something happened at the company. Your brother was taken away by the police." The middle-aged man's voice was hoarse. Chapter 584. Yun Nuo felt as if all the blood in her body had turned cold. "What's wrong, Dad? What on earth happened?" Yun Nuo forced herself to ask rationally. "We don't know either. The Yun family was suddenly investigated by the higher-ups. Also, your brother has been detained because of what happened at the company." Yun Nuo's father took a deep breath. "I'm still thinking of a way to get your brother out. Don't cause trouble." With that said, Yun Nuo's father hung up. Yun Nuo did not dare to imagine that that person would be so ruthless for Bei Yun's sake. He would not even let the Yun family off. Thinking of this, Yun Nuo gritted her teeth and called Sing Su. Fortunately, Sing Su did not block her number. However, from Sung Su's voice, it was obvious that he knew that she would come looking for him. "Miss Yun, what's the matter?" Sung Su asked with a smile. "Was Master Du behind what happened to my family?" Yun Nuo's voice was trembling. Sung Su did not answer. Instead, he smiled and said, "Were you behind Miss Pei's matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Nuo's scalp went numb. It was really for Bei Yun. "You did this just for Bei Yun. Was it Bei Yun who told Master Du that I was the one who did it?" Yun Nuo's voice was a little crazy and her eyes were red. How could she not compare to that girl who came back from the slums? "Miss Pei, Master Du will investigate too. Everyone who has designs on Miss Pei will not be able to escape." Seng Su smiled. After all, Miss Pei is the person in Master Du's heart. As soon as she returned home, Bei Yun was informed by Auntie Miao that something seemed to have happened to Huashidu, and he had to go abroad for a few days. Although Huashidu would text Bei Yun every day, for some reason, Bei Yun had a vague feeling that something had happened. A few days later, in the evening, a girl's bar, Bei Yun lowered the brim of her hat and scanned the people around her. She found a boy in a black t-shirt not far away. "Lu Yuanxi." Bei Yun's tone was not very friendly. "You're here, Master Pei. How are your teeth now?" Lu Yuanxi stood up and asked with a smile. "Bei Yun. Yun, let's go to the private room." Chu Zhixing was there too. It was obvious that this was to make up for the previous birthday party. "Let's go before 9:30. Bei Yun suppressed his twitching eyebrows and glanced at the two of them leisurely. 9:30? Isn't it too early?" Lu Yuanxi frowned. "There's a curfew at home." Bei Yun laughed lazily. Subsequently, just as everyone was about to leave, they suddenly heard a shout not far away. This attracted their attention. Everyone looked over and saw a table of people making things difficult for the two waiters. "Is it so difficult for you to have a few drinks? I didn't ask you to sleep with me." The man was wearing a suit, but his mouth was saying extremely obscene words. When Lu Yuanxi and the other boys heard this, they unconsciously frowned. Although this kind of thing was extremely common in such a place where fish and dragons mixed together. "Sorry, my friend can't drink." Another slightly cold female voice sounded, but it attracted Bei Yun's attention. She turned around and found that one of the girls who was protecting the waitress whose chest was drenched was Song Yao. Bei Yun frowned. Then before Lu Yuanxi and the rest could react, they saw Bei Yun walking over. On the sofa. Chapter 585. After you drink this wine, I'll let your friend go. That man stared at Song Yao unabashedly, his eyes full of lust. This scene was noticed by many people. However, when the people who originally wanted to help the two waiters saw a handsome man in a black silk shirt with curly hair sitting opposite them, they gave up on this idea. It was Fu Yanbai, the young master of the Fu Corporation. "Don't embarrass me, Miss Song. Could it be that you and your friend don't want to work here anymore?" The man smiled maliciously. Even though Song Yao's work pass was a fake name, he still called her Miss Song. It was obvious that they were old acquaintances. Song Yao pursed her lips and felt Fu Yanbai's gaze on her. The corners of her lips twitched slightly. Then she reached for the wine on the table. But in the next second, her other slender hand picked up the wine glass even faster. Her clear and lazy voice sounded lazily. "I'm sorry she can't drink. I'll drink this wine for Yao Yao." With that said, Bei Yunj took the wine on the table and drank it in one gulp. Song Yao was stunned by this scene. "Yunj, why are you here?" Bei Yunj glanced at her. It was obvious that she did not want to talk to her right now. At this moment, the man stood up suddenly and his expression changed. "Who are you? Do you know?" Just as Bei Yunj turned around and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly, the man was dazed. He thought that the elder young miss of the Song family was unforgettable enough. However, this person in front of him could be said to be stunning. Even Yu Ling, whom Fu Yanbai was deeply in love with back then, could not compare to her. "So you're Miss Song's friend." The man immediately revealed an even more malicious smile, and poured a glass of wine for Bei Yunj with a smile. "Since we're friends, of course we have to drink more." Hearing this, behind them, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing frowned and their eyes turned cold. "Yunj, don't worry," Song Yao bit her lip. She knew that Fu Yanbai was deliberately making things difficult for her, and did not want Bei Yunj to get involved. Suddenly, Bei Yunj held her hand and chuckled. "Why don't you drink more?" Before the man could react, Bei Yunj picked up the wine glass on the table. Before anyone could react, the wine was poured over his head. The man was so drenched that he shivered and did not come back to his senses for a moment. The next moment he heard her chuckle. "How is it? Are you sober now? How dare you treat me like this?" The man was furious. He wiped his face and looked at Bei Yunj in disbelief. She wished she could skin Bei Yunj alive. This scene stunned Song Yao completely. She stood rooted to the ground in a daze and forgot to pull Bei Yunj. "The first cup is to give you face. The second cup is to remind you to save your face and get lost. Do you understand, everyone?" Bei Yunj looked at him with a faint smile. He slowly put down the wine glass, but the coldness in his eyes was terrifying. It made everyone present feel inexplicably shocked. It seems like Miss Pei's temper has always been bad. Suddenly Fu Yanbai, who had been silent all this while, spoke. "You're really courting death. You even dare to interfere in young Master Fu's matters." The man wiped his face with a tissue and said fiercely to Bei Yunj. He hoped that Fu Yanbai would quickly teach this reckless little B***tch a lesson. "So it's young Master Fu. I'm sorry. My desk mate has a bad temper." Lu Yuanxi walked over from the side and stood beside Bei Yunj. He had a hand in his pocket and smiled casually. Chapter 586. He's the young master of the Lu family. The people around Fu Yanbai immediately recognized Lu Yuanxi. Then, Chu Zhixing also came over and spoke elegantly. "President Fu, I'm sorry to have disturbed your mood." With that said, the people behind Fu Yanbai widened their eyes. This is the second young master of the Chu family? Why were all the people around this girl so important? Why, are you her deskmate too? Fu Yanbai stared at Chu Zhixing for a while and asked. The Chu family and the Fu family had a relationship. "No, but that's our Master Pei." Chu Zhixing chuckled. It was obvious. Both of them were protecting Bei Yunj. After a long time, Fu Yanbai's gaze shifted to Bei Yunj. He smiled as well, his eyes burning. "You're very capable. Can anyone become your helper if you want?" But the way he looked at her seemed to be looking at another person through her. He wanted this girl. However, the troublesome thing was that he could not offend that person from the Hua family. Guh. Song Yao grabbed Bei Yunj's hand and looked at Fu Yanbai warily. How could she not tell that Fu Yanbai's attitude towards Bei Yunj was very different? "Young Master Fu, the Fu family can't withstand the torment. Do you need help?" Bei Yunj chuckled, her beautiful eyes filled with arrogance and hostility. With that said, the people around Fu Yanbai could not help but look at Bei Yunj. They felt that Bei Yunj was bold and curious about her. Did this woman know what status the Fu family had? She was so happy. She dared to say such words. The Qin family is at its peak now, but it doesn't mean that they can touch the Fu family. As for that person from the Hua family, do you think he will deal with the Fu family for you? Fu Yanbai smiled. Young Master Fu, you're so confident. Why don't you think about why you can't get the 11 project? Bei Yunj asked with a smile. When Fu Yanbai heard this, the calmness on his face disappeared and his eyes darkened. How did she know about the 11 project? Did Hua Shidu tell her? The Qin family was not involved in any technology projects, so it was almost impossible for them to know that the Fu family was talking about the 11 project. This was the right to use a regional project that the Fu Corporation had bought from the Delaney Group. It was the first project of the researchers who had obtained Busaka and Farizg some time ago. Apart from the Fu's enterprise, there were also other companies in a land vying for this piece of juicy meat. However, Delaney was the first to reject the Fu Corporation. Even the reason was very perfunctory and puzzling. How do you know about the 11 project? I thought you would ask me why I couldn't get the 11 project. Bei Yunj's bright eyes curved into crescents, looking lazy and arrogant. After saying this, she pulled Song Yao and left the hall on the first floor. Everyone else was silent. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little cold. Originally, he had come to take care of Song Yao today as a routine, but he did not expect an accident. Young Master Fu about Song Yao. At this moment, the boss of the bar ran over, his back covered in sweat. He couldn't afford to offend Fu Yanbai, but he couldn't afford to offend the Chu and Lu families either. They were really making things difficult for him, a businessman. I won't let her off. Fu Yanbai's voice was cold. If it wasn't for Song Yao, Yuling wouldn't have jumped into the sea to commit suicide. Master Pei, why are you smashing someone's place just because of a disagreement? Chapter 587. It was Chu Zhixing's first time seeing someone scold Fu Yanbai like that. He did not know how Fu Yanbai had offended Master Pei. I gave him face, but he didn't want it. After Bei Yunj finished speaking slowly, he turned to glance at Song Yao. What's wrong with you? The adventures of a silly work girl? Song Yao said. No, it's just that my family isn't very well off. Bei Yunj did not notice at first. After all, Song Yao's aura did not seem like a girl from an ordinary family. Did something happen at home? After Bei Yunj brought her into the private room, he let go of her and pulled off the work pass on her chest. He took off his coat and put it on her. I'm bankrupt. Song Yao nodded. She looked gentle and calm. Lu Yuanxi could not help laughing. Master Pei, can you not be so fierce to girls? Pei Yunj glanced at him. I'll go get the wine. Lu Yuanxi immediately turned and left. Don't drink. I'll get Lu Yuanxi to send you back later. Bei Yunj glanced at Song Yao and smiled lazily. After all, I'm a girl. It's not safe for me. Lu Yuanxi was speechless. Your King afraid of being unsafe? Was he the one who poured wine on someone's head at the table just now? Song Yao could not help but laugh. I can go back myself. Nothing happened. I'll send you back. My desk mate is my friend. With that said, Lu Yuanxi opened the door and went out. Meanwhile, Chu Zhixing and the other students were playing in the private room. At this moment, Song Yao roughly told Bei Yunj about what had happened at home. Because Song Yao had offended Fu Yanbai had used the Fu Corporation to make the Song Corporation bankrupt. Song Yao's father could not bear the burden and committed suicide, leaving her and her mother to live together. However, perhaps because Fu Yanbai felt that this was not enough, he forced her to work in a bar. He would come and find trouble with her a few times a month. Actually, the reason why I'm restudying is not because of anything else. At that time, I had already received the acceptance letter from Jin University, but because of Fu Yanbai, I was disqualified. Song Yao said calmly without any resentment. Jin University's admission scores for the past 2 years were not much different from Yin University's. Because of Yuling, a woman he likes, Song Yao said. Bei Yunj frowned and looked at her. Yuling. Previously, she had heard Hua Shidu talk about this person. Yes, we're classmates. When she was in her second year of high school, she started chasing Fu Yanbai. The two of them often quarreled because of the difference in status. Song Yao said with a smile. Yuling always felt that Fu Yanbai didn't respect her, And she knew that I used to like Fu Yanbai too, so she often came over to ask me to be with Fu Yanbai after quarreling. Almost every time they quarreled, she would hear Fu Yanbai say in front of Yuling and everyone else that he didn't like her and coax Yuling. She was a socialite who had been pampered since she was young, but she couldn't compare to Yuling. Song Yao took a deep breath. However, there's indeed something wrong with Fu Yanbai. After finding out about Yuling's existence from the Fu family, old Master Fu didn't agree to let Yuling in. On the other hand, Yuling was proud and wanted to leave when she threw a tantrum, but Fu Yanbai imprisoned her in his house. In order to coax Yuling, Fu Yanbai asked me to talk to her. Chapter 588. Did she fall in accidentally? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. The rumors outside were that she had committed suicide. A person like her won't commit suicide. She knows very well that Fu Yanbai dotes on her. As long as she makes a fuss, Fu Yanbai will give her everything. Song Yao smiled. No matter how sick Fu Yanbai's feelings for Yuling were, Yuling was still able to handle him. She knew that only Fu Yanbai could give her what she wanted. You're not friends with her, right? Bei Yunj glanced at her. Song Yao nodded hesitantly, but she pinched the corner of her skirt unconsciously. This was the first time someone had said this. As for the others, they always thought that she had a good relationship with Yuling. But no, it was never like that. Silly girl. Bei Yunj smirked unconsciously and poked Song Yao's head with her index finger. But no one will find trouble with their friends time and time again. I've never liked her. Song Yao did not hide her feelings for Yuling at all. Do I look like her? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. If they were really that alike, why did Song Yao treat her so well the moment they met? As a result, Bei Yunj had always wondered if this girl was stupid. Do we look alike? Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj and shook her head. I don't think so. She liked Bei Yunj because Bei Yunj was good-looking. She looked like the ragdoll cat she had raised before when she was half asleep on the table. Hearing this, Bei Yunj lost interest in Fu Yanbai and his wife. How much money does your family owe? Bei Yunj asked. I know you're very good, but I shouldn't trouble you. Song Yao had a bottom line in her heart. There were some things that she shouldn't trouble her friends with. Bei Yunj took out a card and stuffed it into Song Yao's pocket. She said slowly, "Then you can sell yourself to me. You can work and go to school at the same time. Do you want to participate in the competition?" But I owe a lot. Song Yao couldn't even look up and didn't dare to look at Bei Yunj. There's 100 million in this card. If you think it's not enough, I'll bring another card tomorrow. Song Yao was speechless. Had she been away from the rich for too long? The pocket money of the rich and powerful nowadays was measured in hundreds of millions. In the past, she only had a few 100,000 yuan in pocket money a month. I can't take this money. Song Yao returned the card to Bei Yunj. I didn't say that you can't pay me back. The winner of the world championship gets 300,000 yuan, Bei Yunj said. Song Yao asked, "You're not participating?" Yes. Bei Yunj had no intention of going abroad for the Youth World Championship. But first place is too difficult. Before Song Yao could finish speaking, she felt Bei Yunj's gaze and fell silent. When Lu Yuanxi returned, he saw the crime scene. Cough, cough. Let's drink. Lu Yuanxi immediately eased the atmosphere and made up for the birthday party that he did not follow the procedures properly last time. The next day, Fu Yanbai received a call. What is it? Fu Yanbai's voice was hoarse. There was a female companion on the bed. Young Master Fu. Song Yao returned the money. Hearing this, Fu Yanbai's eyes turned cold. More than 70 million yuan. How could Song Yao have the money to return it? Soon Fu Yanbai thought of that person from yesterday. Bei Yunj. After a while he said coldly, "I'll deal with it." Was Song Yao trying to escape? Did she think that she could live a stable life just because someone had returned the money for her? She should live a lowly life for the rest of her life to atone for her sins. Chapter 589. Yu Manran was jealous and felt that his status was not as good as before. Who is this girl? Is she your friend? Bei Yunj looked at Song Yao, who was still doing questions not far away. She was leaning against the corridor and drinking water. Why are you so good to her? Yu Manran was jealous. This little kid has always wanted to return my money. I'm afraid that something will happen to her, so I think it's safe with you. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. If this doesn't work, I can only attack the Fu Corporation first. Wait, Song Yao's name. After regaining his senses, Yu Manran was shocked. The eldest young lady of the Song family? You know her? I know her. She used to be very famous, and was good friends with Fu Yanbai's dead ex-girlfriend. Yu Manran said. They're not. Bei Yunj said calmly. I see. Yu Manran seemed to understand. Then I understand. I'll arrange for someone to audition for her as a model. She seems to have been forced to repeat her second year of high school, right? Then I'll arrange for less work. Okay, thank you, Man. In our nation, Huashidu received a call. It was from Fu Yanbai. After Huashidu answered the call, he heard him suppressing his anger, but there was still a hint of anger in his voice. Master Du is so generous to the young lady. You can take out 70 to 80 million yuan so easily? What's the matter? Huashidu's deep and indifferent voice was cold. Bei Yunj casually gave Song Yao 70 to 80 million yuan to pay off her debt. Doesn't Master Du think anything of it? Fu Yanbai could not help but come to look for Huashidu. Huashidu's eyebrows moved. He did not have any impression of the name Song Yao. He said slowly, Is that so? Then, beautiful book bar. Before Fu Yanbai could speak, he heard Huashida's conversation. Sung Su, pay this debt for miss so that there won't be enough next month. The man's low and magnetic voice said lazily. Sung Su suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. Yes. Wasn't Bei Yunj too much? Pay a debt of 7 to 8,000 yuan? Master Du, aren't you afraid of spoiling her? Fu Yanbai's face was ashen. He had never thought that a man could spoil a woman to this extent. I'll deal with what she's done. As for young Master Fu, take care of yourself. After that, Huashida hung up. It also caused Fu Yanbai's face to turn pale and green. Master Du, that money is really... Sung Su hesitated. The man's thin eyelids didn't even lift as he said lightly, Yes, I did. Huashida did not show it either. Bei Yunj did not know where the money came from. He just asked Sung Su to transfer more money into Bei Yunj's bank account. He knew this little girl's temperament very well. She wouldn't do anything out of line. Also, get someone to keep a close eye on the Fu family. The little girl has a bad temper. When necessary, just take care of her. There's no need to save face for others. Huashida's meaning was very obvious. If the Fu family provoked Bei Yunj, in order to make Bei Yunj happy, they could deal with the Fu family in any way. Yes, Sengyu happened to come back from her patrol. I'll get Sengyu to follow Mississippi. Tsingsu nodded. At Yin University, Bei Yunj had just entered the multimedia hall when she heard an unfamiliar female voice. Song Yao, do you really think that you can participate in the world competition? Chapter 590. Bei Yunj stopped at the door and raised her pretty eyes slowly. She saw a girl in a blue short dress standing in front of Song Yao arrogantly with everyone. Yes, if you have the chance, why don't you? Song Yao's tone was gentle, and she had a smile on her face. However, her words made the expressions of the girls present stiffen. They felt like they wanted to flare up, but they didn't know where to vent their anger. This Song Yao used to be a noble person, but she had become like this. Song Yao, I think you're too depraved. Su Xianing narrowed her eyes and laughed coldly. Student Su, if you're done, can you leave now? Song Yao did not plan to fight with Su Xianing. But at this moment, Su Xianing laughed coldly and saw the 2 exercise books in Song Yao's hands. Then, before Song Yao could react, Su Xianing quickly took the exercise books. Su Xianing. Song Yao's eyes immediately turned cold, and she stood up. You're finally willing to flare up? Instead, Su Xianing smirked and flipped through the 2 exercise books. So you're doing homework for others, Miss Song. This has nothing to do with you. Song Yao clenched her fists, a cold glint in her eyes. She did not care about being pointed at, but Su Xianing obviously would not miss this opportunity to target Bei Yunj. Apologize to me and admit that it was because of you that Yu Ling got into trouble. Su Xianing looked down at her. Hearing this, even Song Yao's eyes were filled with coldness. However, after hesitating for a moment, her clenched fists slowly relaxed. You know that this class doesn't allow such behavior, right? I heard that the teachers of the ordinary class like you, so nothing might happen to you. What about Bei Yunj? Hearing this, Song Yao's hand loosened completely. She pursed her lips. Su Xianing, suddenly. What do you think will happen to me? A clear and melodious voice rang out. Then before Su Xianing could turn back to look at her, a slender and fair hand pulled the 2 exercise books away. You! Su Xianing's face twisted. Bei Yunj did not even look at Su Xianing from the corner of her eye. She walked in front of Song Yao and patted her head with the exercise book. She said lazily, "What are you thinking about, Tian Tian? You're admitting that you didn't do it?" Song Yao was speechless. She was certain that this Tian Tian was definitely the Tian Tian in the idiotic sense. Bei Yunj, I've already caught evidence of Song Yao copying homework for you. You. Go ahead, snitch. Bei Yunj sat beside Song Yao and slowly flipped through the exercise book. She had just picked up the pen when she thought for a while and pushed the exercise book to Song Yao. Continue writing. The bullying at the scene was very arrogant. Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj and was silent for a while before she picked up the pen and wrote slowly. During this period of time, Bei Yunj would call her to correct the wrong questions even if she didn't come. Bei Yunj's book was also used by her to review her mistakes. When Su Xianing saw this, her expression changed. Why is this student from the advanced class in our class? The lecturer walked in slowly with a teacup. Hearing this, Su Xianing immediately said, "Teacher, I'm reporting Bei Yunj and Song Yao. The students in the special class record their usual results. Song Yao and Bei Yunj copied each other's homework and used unfair competition methods." Chapter 591. Hearing this, the lecturer paused in his action of putting down the thermos flask and could not help but look at her, Song Yao and Bei Yunj. A few seconds later, the lecturer glanced at Song Yao before his eyes landed on Bei Yunj. Is what Su Xianing said true? Teacher, actually, before Song Yao could explain, she heard the lecturer say, I didn't ask you to speak, Song Yao. But Song Yao was about to insist when she was interrupted by Bei Yunj. Teacher, I won't admit to this. Hearing Bei Yunj being so calm, Su Xianing laughed coldly. Everyone saw with their own eyes that Song Yao used your exercise book to do it. Are you still not admitting it? What do you say? The lecturer looked at Bei Yunj and asked. In this situation, Song Yao was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She was afraid that the teacher would really ask Bei Yunj to leave, because he didn't like Bei Yunj. How did you know that exercise book was mine? Before Su Xianing could refute, she heard Bei Yunj say with a casual smile, Did you write my name? Dang. Su Xianing was about to respond when her body suddenly froze. She didn't seem to have seen the name on the exercise book just now. Bei Yunj had been in class for a month, and she hadn't even written her name on the exercise book? Not only Su Xianing, even the lecturer froze, his expression not too good. Bei Yunj, you've been in class for so long and you didn't even write your name on the exercise book? Teacher, she forgot, Song Yao immediately explained. The people around her were even more anxious than the original owner. Seeing this, Su Xianing and the people around her started to gloat. But in the next moment, the lecturer's expression was dark. Bei Yunj, Professor Do told me that you're very talented, but do you know how talent is erased? Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved. Lingjio Literature Network. No wonder her results in every assessment period were not ideal, but she would always have one more place in the ranking. If you can't pass this paper in an hour, I don't want to see you in this classroom again. As soon as he finished speaking, when Su Xianing saw the question on the paper, her lips curled into a mocking smile. Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj pitifully, indicating for her to do it well this time. Bei Yunj could not withdraw from the competition in such a dejected manner. Bei Yunj glanced at Song Yao and then at the paper. She was silent for a while. Teacher, this paper is not good. When Su Xianing heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up into a mocking smile. Professor Do's handpicked student was only SOSO. What kind of extraordinary talent was this? Why? The lecturer looked at her and asked. Grr. Song Yao tugged at Bei Yunji's sleeve nervously. More than half of that paper was set by me. Bei Yunji looked up at the lecturer. Lecturer. Song Yao was speechless. After coming back to his senses, the lecturer was a little incoherent. What did you say? Bei Yunji thought for a while and said, it's not very fair to do this test paper. Everyone. Damn. This damned person was actually Bei Yunji. The teachers who had come to substitute for the past few days had all said that this paper was very good. But in everyone's eyes it was too tricky. It was even more suffocating than Huang Qishan's physics paper. In the end, this was set by Bei Yunji. Su Xianing and the rest did not look too good either. In the advanced class, only Shi and Cheng Zihuai had scored 70 to 80 points for this paper. Chapter 592. Actually, before Song Yao took a photo of this paper for Bei Yunji had always thought that Professor Do was testing her. But later, she found out that during the professors' gathering, Professor Do had been made drunk by Si Qingyan. When Si Qingyan saw that someone was rushing for the papers of the special class, he felt guilty and used Professor Do's account to send a test mission to Bei Yunji. Then half an hour later, Si Qingyan received something from Bei Yunji and silently transferred a copy to the dean. Song Yao suddenly remembered that when she sent this paper to Bei Yunji seemed to have been silent for a long time. So this was her paper. At this moment, the lecturer's lips twitched. He did not know what to do with Bei Yunji. He took a deep breath. We'll talk about this in the future. First, teacher, as the top university in the country, are you going to choose to protect a student? Su Xianing's cold voice sounded. The people around could not help but look at this arrogant girl in front of them. It had to be said. Other than Su Xianing, no one had the guts to speak to the lecturer of Yin University like this. This isn't protecting a student. The lecturer frowned unconsciously, but before he could speak, he heard the voice of the person behind him. Xianing, why are you here? Why are you talking to Teacher Gao? Everyone turned around and saw Professor Wei from the mathematics department. In the past 2 years, Professor Wei's reputation had been even greater than Professor Do's. Su Xianing also called Professor Wei, but most people knew that Professor Wei was Su Xianing's uncle. It's like this. When I came to the ordinary class to visit a friend, I accidentally found someone doing homework for someone else. But I remember that our final assessment usually takes up a part of the results. Isn't that cheating? Number 1 asked. Hearing this, Professor Wei frowned and glanced at Teacher Gao. Is that so? What Su Xianing said isn't that true, Teacher Gao said. It's just that a student rarely comes, so if it's not that true, then it should be mostly true. Professor Wei said coldly. In that case, the two of them can leave the special class together. Their existence is indeed unfair to others. Professor Wei, but Song Yao is currently the top student in the ordinary class. Teacher Gao said instinctively. Like you said, it's an ordinary class. Professor Wei sneered and looked at his watch. Alright, stop talking nonsense with me. Today Yin University will have some important guests. I don't want them to know about the existence of these two people when they visit. After that, Professor Wei glanced at Bei Yunji coldly and was about to leave. Seeing this, Su Xianing also laughed. After Professor Wei left, she looked at Bei Yunji and Song Yao. Her gaze was filled with sarcasm and contempt. Song Yao, a person like you will be pulled down no matter who you cling to. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be like you and still have the face to speak so confidently after killing someone. Song Yao's eyes moved, her eyes filled with forbearance. In the past 2 to 3 years, everyone thought that she was punished because she had harmed Yuling. Everyone tacitly agreed that she had been treated unfairly. Yao Yao, what do you want to eat? Bei Yunji suddenly asked and interrupted Song Yao's attention. I'm fine with anything, Song Yao said. Then let's have a meal first. Chapter 593. Teacher Gao's expression did not look too good either. Beiyunj, don't go yet. Professor Do might. Teacher Gao, I'm sorry for troubling you during this period of time. Beiyunj's eyes curved as she pulled Song Yao out of the classroom. Looking at Beiyunj's figure, Teacher Gao felt an inexplicable strange emotion. To be honest, although he had little contact with Beiyunj during this period of time, and even felt that this student was unruly and did not do her job properly. However, in terms of details, this student was unruly but well-mannered. Gur, do you really not want to participate at all? If you can get first place in this competition, it will be a valuable stepping stone for you to enter various research institutes in the future. I don't want to. Beiyunj said slowly. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person thinking all day long? Stay here first. I have a call. Beiyunj brought Song Yao to the private room and walked out. In the long corridor, the person on the other end of the call said in surprise, Miss, you're finally willing to contact me. I heard that you're the one who's preparing for the Mitchell Mathematics International Competition? Beiyunj asked directly. Hearing this, the head of Lee University was stunned. He did not understand why he was asking about such a competition. The head of Lee University probed. Yes. Do you have any juniors who want to participate? Beiyunj continued. Yes, can you leave a spot? Of course you can. The head of Lee University agreed readily. Although this competition required professional qualities of the contestants, how could the juniors of the family be bad? One shoe building, okay, thank you, director. Beiyunj hummed in response. Before she could hang up, the director of the hospital hurriedly said, Wait. Can you reconsider the matter of our celebrity wall? Director, I'm sorry. I don't want my private life to be affected yet. Hearing this, the director's tone was regretful. Is that so? But you're really outstanding. Actually, our Neely University has always had the intention of recruiting you. Neely University is a top school and has never lacked talents. Beiyunj smirked lazily and easily gave Director Lee a way out. A talented person like you would be fought over in any country. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Jones, would you have developed in country R? Head Elderly said with a regretful tone. After all, the treatment they received in our country's Confucian art circle had always been top-notch. There were also many scholars who had immigrated from country A. I won't. Beiyunj answered without any hesitation, which stunned Dean Lee. Why? Obviously, country R could provide more resources. Beiyunj didn't even lift her eyelids. She had been asked the same question since her last life. That's my family's teachings. These words made Dean Lee suddenly curious about country A. After all, their country's ancestors had never received such education. Meanwhile, Professor Wei was showing two people around the campus. Along the way, he attracted the attention of many people. This was Jasmine and Titch, the students of Country R's top rich second-generation heir. Thank you for your hospitality, Professor Wei. Thank you very much for today. Jasmine smiled at Professor Wei. You're welcome. I've heard that you're also in Yincheng? Professor Wei said with a smile, but he was asking for information. Chapter 594. That's indeed the case. Our teacher has always been in Yincheng and has never left. Jasmine smiled. Then I wonder, will I have the chance to meet him? Professor Wei's mind was on the 8,000 questions. But who would have thought that a new scientific researcher in the computing field would actually solve the 8,000 questions in the mathematics world? If possible, he hoped to have a chance to interact with him and become the third person to solve the 8,000 questions. I'm really sorry. Our teacher doesn't like to meet strangers. Jasmine smiled helplessly. Neely University has always wanted to organize a wall of fame for our teacher, but they haven't been able to contact our teacher. At this point, Jasmine and Titch also felt a sense of pride. Back then, when Marcus asked them to follow the new members of the Our Nation's Computing Institute, they were still a little unconvinced. After all, they had always been the young elites in the industry. But later on, it was their teacher's professionalism that taught them how to behave. But our teacher is in the Computing Institute. If you really want to meet him, you can visit Mr. Zhong Shanglin. Titch said. Really? Thank you. A smile immediately appeared on Professor Wei's face, and he continued chatting with Jasmine and Tich. However, I didn't expect the two of you to come to Yunqing personally. Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. This is our teacher's hometown. We really want to see the place where our teacher grew up. Yes, I also heard that the teacher-student relationship in Country A is very good. Country A is very particular about respecting teachers. We have always wanted to get closer to our teacher. Tich nodded. Hearing this, Professor Wei also began to realize that these two top-rich second-generation heirs did not put on any airs in front of him. It was a sincere respect for him. One had to know that the rich circle of our nation still had some residual feudal thoughts. But in order to get closer to him, these two had personally come to Yincheng to meet him. Thinking of this, Professor Wei could not help but feel envious. Suddenly, Tich received a call. Seeing the caller ID, Tich's tone immediately weakened. Teacher. Yes, have you eaten? The voice on the other end was slow. Yes, I've eaten. That thesis today. Before Tich could finish, he was interrupted. Just give me the thesis this week. How long will you be staying in Yunqing recently? More than half a month. Tich was a little stunned. He did not quite understand why Bei Yunj asked this question. Then are you free? Tiki answered without hesitation. Yes, I do. Between you and Jasmine, who is better at mathematics? Bei Yunj asked. That's about the same. Tich didn't dare to say anything about anyone, especially after Bei Yunj taught him mathematics the last time. I have a friend is participating in the Mitchell Mathematics International Mathematical Olympiad. Hearing Bei Yunj ask Tich, he nodded repeatedly. Sure. At the same time, Tich, there were people around their teacher who were participating in the Mitchell International Mathematics competition. Wasn't he too down to earth? Okay. I'll send someone to look for you later. No, teacher, please take care of yourself. To be. Professor Wei could not help but look at Tich. Is Tich on the phone with someone? After Bei Yunj finished explaining, the two of them hung up the phone. Tich looked at Jasmine again. Chapter 595. Teacher asked us to fetch someone. Hearing this, Jasmine raised an eyebrow. What happened? You'll know later. With that said, Tich turned to look at Professor Wei. Professor Wei, we still have to fetch someone. Why don't you leave first? However, a dark glint flashed in Professor Wei's eyes as he smiled. It's all right. I'm familiar with Yincheng. If that person can't find you, I can bring you there. If this person was a friend of, then he would have a better chance of coming into contact with her. At this moment, Tich and Jasmine looked at each other and did not say anything. 10 minutes later, they suddenly saw a girl about the same age as their teacher. She seemed to be looking for someone. Jasmine's eyebrows moved. He was about to go forward when Professor Wei saw Song Yao, who was wandering around Yin University. Didn't I ask you to go out? Why are you still here? Professor Wei's tone was cold and impatient. Even his anger was rising. These students nowadays, did they all think that they were so capable? Who dared to accept the students he chased away? Professor Wei, I'm here to look for someone. Song Yao glanced at Professor Wei, but her eyes were fixed on the brown-haired Tich and the blonde-haired and blue-eyed Jasmine. Looking for someone at Yin University? Do you think that after attending classes at Yin University, you can... Do you know Yunj? Song Yao asked tentatively. These two people's appearances matched Yunj's description very well. Yes. Tich immediately nodded, his eyes shining. You're Bei Yunj's friend? Beside him, Jasmine could not help but look at Tich in shock. This brother was getting bolder. He even dared to call his teacher's name so directly. Yes, are you one too? Song Yao nodded. Her gentle aura was likable. Yes. Tich remembered what Bei Yunj had told him and could only nod. Hearing this, Jasmine almost thought that Tich was crazy. He even dared to call himself teacher's friend. However, in the next second, Jasmine suddenly regained his senses. Tich might have said this because of his teacher's instructions over the phone just now. Nice to meet you. I'm Song Yao, Yunj's friend. Song Yao smiled. Professor Wei, who was watching this scene, froze. Why was the person Tich and the rest were waiting for Song Yao? Didn't that call just now come from her? However, both of them had brought up Bei Yunj's name. Professor Wei remembered Bei Yunj. She was a student that Professor Do had his eyes on, but compared to talented players like Tich and Jasmine, her talent and ability were not worth mentioning. How could he be Tich's friend? Just as Professor Wei was denying it, Tich hurriedly took the exercise book for Song Yao and said with a smile, Yunj said that she wanted me to teach you mathematics. You are going to participate in the Mitchell math competition, right? Although my mathematics isn't as good as Yunj's, I've won first place in the Mitchell competition in the past. I hope you won't despise us. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person talking about? She wasn't as good as Yunj in mathematics, but she had won first place in the Mitchell competition? Ah, the Mitchell competition. It's not difficult. I've won first place before. Jasmine, who was beside her, interrupted and comforted her. Don't be nervous. It's just a small competition. Chapter 596. Song Yao could not help asking, "What school are you from?" "I'm a postgraduate student from the computing department of Neely University," Tich said. "Me too. I'm in the same department as him. We're both interns at the Institute of Computing Technology in our nation." Jasmine added, "I'm an intern. Is it the one who solved the 8 questions?" Song Yao felt her legs go weak and she suspected that she was dreaming. Was the big boss's student taking her under his wing? Hearing their identities, Song Yao felt that it was a waste of their talent to take her under their wing. Seeing this, Jasmine understood. Indeed, the teacher's friend did not know the teacher's identity. "Yes," Jasmine said with a gentle smile. "So you don't have to worry. We'll teach you diligently during this period." Song Yao was speechless. Isn't this too troublesome? She really did not know what Master Pei was doing. At first, she thought that Bei Yunj had found a student from Yin University to teach her. Who would have thought that it would be a postgraduate student from Neely University? Furthermore, this was his personal student. No trouble, no trouble. We're very happy to do it," Tich said hurriedly. What a joke. It was the first time their teacher had instructed them to do something. If they couldn't do it well, wouldn't they seem too useless? Finally, Professor Wei could not help but speak, his expression still not too good. "Isn't the person you want to take over someone you know?" Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Professor Wei in confusion. How could she know a god of this level? "Yes, it's someone I know. I'm not too sure either," Tich said vaguely. "Maybe someone asked our teacher for help." When Professor Wei heard this, his expression turned even uglier. He was looking for an opportunity to contact her through his student. That Bei Yunj actually had the ability to get in touch with this person and get his student to teach Song Yao. But does this student have a spot to participate in the Mitchell competition? Professor Wei said with a fake smile. He knew very well that if Jasmine and Tich took Song Yao, Su Xianing's chances of getting first place would be even lower. Hearing this, Tich turned around in confusion. "Huh? Isn't Song Yao an individual international contestant?" "What?" Professor Wei's expression changed completely. For a long time, the requirements for individual international contestants were very high. They needed qualified scientific researchers to recommend them. Even he didn't have the qualifications to be a recommender. He had just dismissed Song Yao not long ago. How did she become an individual international player? "Miss Song, do you want to check it out?" At this time, they should have already registered, Tich said. Hearing this, Song Yao was also inexplicably nervous and took out her phone to check. Not long after entering the website address, then her personal information appeared. Name: Song Yao. Sex: female. Player type: individual international player. Recommended by. Seeing the last line, Tich and Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. Even their teacher hadn't let them walk through such a special passage. An individual international player. One could directly advance to the next round of the preliminaries. This meant that as long as Song Yao passed the 4th round, she would at least be in the top 10. One had to know that in the past few years, almost no one had been able to pass the requirements of an individual international player. In this year, Song Yao was probably the only international player. All of a sudden, Professor Wei's expression was ugly, and he regretted it even more. He had actually chased Song Yao and Bei Yunj away. Chapter 597. If he hadn't chased them away, would he have been able to get to know them through Bei Yunj? At this thought, Professor Wei's heart turned cold. He could not help turning to look at Song Yao, his voice stiff and slow. Student Song, is Bei Yunj also an individual international contestant? She's not participating. At first, Song Yao did not understand why Bei Yunj was not interested in this competition. However, at this moment, when Song Yao heard what Tich had said and the recommender displayed on her phone screen, she seemed to understand why Bei Yunj was not interested in the competition. Song Yao took a deep breath and stared at the recommender displayed on the screen. It was really, her recommender was actually. Suddenly, Song Yao really wanted to send a message to Bei Yunj to ask if she could get her an autograph. This was a new scientific research big boss. At this moment, Professor Wei's expression darkened even more. It was over. He had really offended Bei Yunj. At the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj glanced at the phone beside her that was flashing with notifications. She did not plan to look at the message. She didn't need to guess to know that this was from Song Yao. Until 6 in the afternoon. When Bei Yunj was about to go back, she called Song Yao and walked out. However, she did not expect to see Fu Yanbai standing at the door of the car the moment she went out. It was obvious that he was waiting for someone. Looking at Fu Yanbai's gaze, Bei Yunj furrowed her eyebrows quietly. She vaguely felt that this person might be her. Yao Yao, I'll hang up first. With that said, Bei Yunj hung up. New World. When Fu Yanbai heard this name, he frowned unconsciously and a trace of coldness flashed past his eyes. Miss Pei, I have to remind you that that woman is not a good person. She looks gentle, but she has a vicious heart. Bei Yunj did not even look at him and planned to leave. Seeing this, Fu Yanbai immediately chased after her and handed the bouquet to Bei Yunj. He smirked. Don't you like these flowers? I've heard that no woman doesn't like flowers. The woman you like is called Yuling, right? Bei Yunj's words made Fu Yanbai pause. Then he calmly admitted, yes. She's a very bright and kind person. Although she's not as good-looking as you and doesn't have your family background, her personality and yours. Young Master Fu, if it were me, the one who fell into the sea back then wouldn't have been me. It would have been you. Bei Yunj's slow words interrupted Fu Yanbai. Next. He laughed. Yes, you're even more daring than Linger. Was it because of Hua Shidu? He does care a lot about you. But Miss Pei, it's not easy to enter the Hua family. As soon as he finished speaking, before Bei Yunj could say anything, a woman's voice suddenly rang out. Young Master Fu, are you trying to take advantage of Master Du? Hearing this, Bei Yunj turned to look at the woman who was walking over. He was dressed in professional attire and looked very capable. His eyebrows seemed to resemble Tseng Su's. Miss Pei, my name is Tseng Yu. I just came back from K Country 2 days ago. I'll be in charge of your daily life in the future. When Tseng Yu smiled, there were 2 little dimples on her face, which made her look more childish. Master Du is even willing to let Miss Pei use you? Fu Yanbai's words were vague. He was deliberately making Bei Yunj think that there might be something between Tseng Yu and Hua Shidu. It's my honor to be able to stay by Miss Pei's side. Master Du thinks highly of me. Chapter 598. With that said, Tseng Yu suddenly changed the topic and asked with a smile. I remember that young Master Fu's last relationship was rumored to be the talk of the town. Why am I here today? Master Du even brought you here. Are you that worried? Fu Yanbai asked without a smile in his eyes. In Fu Yanbai's opinion, Tseng Yu was more difficult to deal with than Tseng Su. After all, she was a woman and her words were aggressive. Young Master Fu, you must be joking. Tseng Yu's tone was indifferent and the smile in her eyes faded a little. Although Miss is young, it doesn't mean that she can't differentiate between good and bad. My job is just to solve unnecessary problems for Mississippi. With that said, Sung-yu looked at Bae Yunj. Miss Pei, can we go back now? Yes. Bae Yunj also glanced at Sung-yu and followed her back to the car. When Fu Yanbai saw this scene, his face turned gloomy. In the car. Miss Pei, can I take you home? Sung-yu asked. Okay, thank you. Bae Yunj responded and looked at Sung-yu. Are you Assistant Sung's sister? Yes. Sung-yu smiled. I heard Sung-soo mention Mississippi Miss is more beautiful than I imagined. However, your position in the Computing Institute is. She remembered that her brother's original words were, Miss Pei was good-looking, but she was unruly and her grades were not good. But thinking about Miss Pei's face and family background, it was already fortunate that she was not spoiled to the point of breaking the law. I'm here to take a look. Bae Yunj smiled. Dream Chinese. When Sung-yu heard this, she felt that something was wrong. She could visit the Computing Institute at will now? She remembered that this Computing Institute could only be entered by swiping a card. Sung-yu couldn't help but sigh. I've only been away from Yincheng for a year. Has there been such a big change? I remember that when I just graduated, I also sent my resume to the Computing Institute, but they didn't even let me in. Bae Yunj. Looking at Sung-yu's capable image, Bae Yunj didn't expect her to be a chatterbox. After Sung-yu told her everything about the company, Bae Yunj suddenly interrupted her. Have you been to Country R? Sung-yu was stunned for a moment, but when she looked at Bae Yunj's eyes through the rearview mirror, she seemed to understand something. She smiled meaningfully and said, Usually when Master Du goes on a business trip, he only brings my brother along. However, I heard from my brother that the women in Country R are much more straightforward than those in Country A. Bae Yunj glanced at Sung-yu. Not reserved? Yes, my brother has a market in Neely and was almost kissed by someone, let alone Master Du. Sung-yu's tone was full of disdain for her brother. She chuckled. I don't know what's wrong with Sung-soo. He bragged about how he was almost forced to kiss me for 3 years. Bae Yunj. Since when did Country R become so unrestrained? Miss Pei, you can call Master Du more often when you're free. Sung-yu said intentionally or unintentionally as she secretly looked at Bae Yunj's expression. Bae Yunj responded indifferently, but no one knew what she was thinking. After Bae Yunj got out of the car, Sung-yu sent Sung-soo a message. Sung-yu, I'll definitely win your 10,000 yuan. Miss Pei will definitely call Master Du today. Sung-soo? Sung-soo, haha, Miss Pei has been quarreling with Master Du recently. What are you thinking about? Call him? Chapter 599. Sung-soo. After returning to the bedroom, Bae Yunj took a shower as usual and read some documents. However, an hour later, Bae Yunj unknowingly picked up her phone and checked the records of Huashida's messages to her. Bae Yunj. Why were they all sent in the morning and afternoon? Was he so busy at night? With this thought in mind, Bae Yunj suddenly remembered Sung-yu's words. Even Assistant Sung was so lucky in love. Moreover, this man had always been very attractive. Thinking of this, Bae Yunj's eyes moved. Just as she was about to send a message to Huashidu, she suddenly stopped. A moment later, Bae Yunj made a call. After about a minute or two, the other party picked up the call. Yunyan, what's wrong? The man's low and magnetic voice sounded even more textured through the current, teasing her eardrums. Brother, are you very busy? The man was silent for a moment. Bae Yunj heard him chuckle again. He said, I'm not too busy. Bae Yunj heard the man's deep and magnetic laughter. For some reason, her throat felt dry and she licked the corner of her lips. Suddenly, Bae Yunj said without thinking, Brother, can you video call me now? The other party seemed to be silent for a moment. His tone was nonchalant. Now. Can't I do it now? When the man heard this, he suddenly lowered his voice and chuckled. Yunyan. Then Bae Yunj heard him say slowly, Brother, any time is fine. Bae Yunj. This D***MN man was at it again. Give me 2 minutes, then I'll video call you, okay? Bae Yunj suddenly smirked and said with a smile. Older brother can do it now, right? The little girl's meaning was obvious. He had to make a video call to her right now. His Adam's apple bobbed as he chuckled. Yes, Yunyan is right. Although Huashida did not understand the little girl's thoughts, he could clearly feel that his child was awkward. Not long after, Huashida turned on his computer and sent Bei Yunj a video call invitation. As expected, Bei Yunj quickly agreed to the invitation. However, after the call was connected, the atmosphere in the air froze for a long time. Bei Yunj saw that the man's short hair was wet, and his upper body was naked. He seemed to have just changed into a pair of pants, and his firm and sexy 8-pack abs were faintly visible. It was simply too terrible. Bei Yunj. So did Huashida say that he wanted to wait for 2 minutes because he wanted to go and get dressed? The silence did not last long. She said, "Brother, dry your hair." The man replied, "Yes." The atmosphere was still awkward. The girl's ears gradually turned a faint shade of red. The man's eyes were fixed on her, and he couldn't hide the smile in the depths of his eyes. "Yunyan, can big brother go and put on some clothes?" "All right." Hence Bei Yunj saw with her own eyes that Huashida took out a black shirt and slowly changed his clothes not far away. The man's lazy yet clean temperament, as well as his well-built waist, simply made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Bei Yunj. Couldn't he avoid the camera? Huashida changed his clothes and returned. He glanced at the little girl wearing silver-rimmed glasses and smiled again. "Yunyan looks good in glasses too." Bei Yunj accepted the compliment with a clear conscience and asked, "When will big brother be back?" "In another week." The emotions in Huashida's eyes flickered, and his magnetic voice was filled with a smile. "Did you miss me?" Chapter 600. Okay. Bei Yunj responded and could not help but look at the man's impeccable face. She had to admit that every time she saw the man's face, the anger that had just risen in her would disappear completely. Seeing Bei Yunj admit it so straightforwardly, Huashida's Adam's apple bobbed unconsciously. His gaze darkened and his laughter was a little hoarse. Sometimes, the recklessness and straightforwardness of a young man were the most moving. Suddenly, Bei Yunj saw the man's thin lips curl up. His magnetic voice sounded light and lazy, not hiding the gentleness that made her blush and her heart race. "Child, I miss you too." At this moment, Bei Yunj's hand that was holding the pen froze. Her heart was beating wildly. There was a knock on the door. "I'll hang up first." After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she immediately wanted to hang up the video call. Even her mind was in a mess. The lethality of this sentence was simply too great. However, suddenly, she saw Huashidu open the door and heard the woman's voice. "Mr. Hua, I don't think there's hot water in my bathroom. Can you help me take a look?" Although it was a foreign language, Bei Yunj understood the woman's intentions very well. However, the man's eyes darkened and he smiled. "No need. I happen to have a favor for you." With that said, Bei Yunj did not quite understand what he meant at first. Huashida's voice was cold and magnetic. It was obvious that he was not easy to seduce. However, the woman did not want to give up. Her coquettish and teasing voice made one's heart itch. "Then can I take a shower here, Mr. Hua?" At this moment, in a hotel, if there was a problem with the hotel facilities, she would not look for the hotel management but a stranger for help. In the next moment, the woman was probably afraid that Huashidu would not believe her, so she said pitifully, "I have no choice. As a female celebrity, if I appear in front of a stranger like this and get photographed. Miss, I don't have time to fix the water heater in your bathroom." Instantly, the smile on the blonde woman's face froze. She was even more suspicious. Where did this woman come from? Not long after, she suddenly noticed the video on the computer screen. Huashida did not speak. He only turned around and walked into the inner room. Seeing this, the blonde woman was overjoyed. But the next moment, she heard the man say lazily, "Baby, someone wants to take a bath here. Do you think it's okay?" Bei Yunj looked at the woman who had walked in without permission. She lazily rested her chin on her hand, and did not hide her purpose. She smiled and said, "I'm sorry, sister. I'm very possessive. I don't intend to lend you anything, whether it's things or people." The woman's expression changed. Of course she understood what Bae Yunj meant. She glanced at Hwashidu, still a little indignant. The girl's appearance was exceedingly beautiful, and her brilliance was unparalleled. No. Then, she watched the girl in the video take off her silver-rimmed glasses. Her eyes looked like they were smiling, but there was a natural laziness to them. Bae Yunj also realized that Hwashidu was looking at her. She immediately found an excuse and hung up the phone. Miss Pei actually had a video call with Master Du after they left. But not long after, Sung Soo came to knock on the door and happily invited this female celebrity away. Before this, Sung Soo saw Bae Yunj on the phone with Hwashidu and widened his eyes in disbelief. However, not long after, Hwashidu's words suddenly appeared in Bae Yunj's mind. P.S. 2 chapters will be added tomorrow morning. Babies, remember to vote. The top 15 of the monthly votes list will be added with 4 chapters in the morning. Chapter 601. Baby, someone wants to bathe at my place. Do you think it's okay? Instantly, Bae Yunj looked up at the report she was writing. She did not know when, but half of the report was written with Hwashidu. Had she been bewitched by that D***MN man? Bae Yunj immediately deleted most of the Hwashidu and continued writing the report at hand. The next day, Bae Yunj received a call. Old Master was suddenly unwell and asked her to watch the music concert with Shang Yan. Old Master Qin was worried about Shang Yan going alone. All right, Old Master. Bae Yunj slowly walked downstairs and said leisurely, "You're so good to him. I almost suspected that he was your biological grandson." "What nonsense are you talking about again?" Old Master Qin scolded jokingly, but it was not difficult to hear his indulgence towards the younger generation. "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. I'll go pick him up now." Bae Yunj looked at her watch, hung up the phone, and got into the car to go to the hospital. She realized that Shang Yan had already changed his clothes. He was wearing a simple navy blue t-shirt and trousers, making him look even more gentle and elegant. If this person could stand up, he would probably be the most popular person in the world. "The nurse came to help me change just now," Shang Yan explained. Bae Yunj nodded and pushed Shang Yan out of the hospital. Along the way, Shang Yan smiled gently. "Did Old Master ask you to accompany me?" "Yes, he's worried about you," Bae Yunj said casually. She did not feel unhappy that she had been sent on a mission. "Did I delay you? Old Master's matters are the most important." Hearing Bae Yunj's words, Shang Yan could not help but smile. Indeed, although this girl did not look easy to get along with, she was a filial girl. Cool record literature along the way, Shang Yan told Bae Yunj a lot about the current music trends. He did not care if Bae Yunj was listening. Until they arrived at the concert venue, Shang Yan took out 2 tickets and was invited in. The tickets this time don't seem to be very good. Shang Yan handed one to Bae Yunj. Bae Yunj took a look and saw that it was a VIP seat. However, for this concert, there were other classes of seats above the ordinary VIP. "Do you want another seat?" Bae Yunj remembered that Du Xiao had said that 90% of large-scale concerts were attended by the International Musicians Association. It was not difficult to get a ticket internally. "Forget it, this is not bad either." Shang Yan did not plan on telling Bae Yunj that it was very difficult to get the tickets this time. The price outside had already risen to more than 100,000 yuan for an ordinary ticket. Bae Yunj nodded and didn't say anything else. "There's still half an hour before the concert. Let's go eat something first," Shang Yan said. There was a self-service R-style afternoon tea outside, and the desserts were exquisite and beautiful. Subsequently, it was only when Bae Yunj was picking out snacks by the side that Shang Yan saw Nancy's message. "Shang Yan, I'm not only doing this for my successor, but also for you. Back then, you were also a prodigy in everyone's eyes. Are you going to give up on yourself just like that?" Shang Yan did not reply and only looked at the ticket in his hand. His lips curled into a faint self-deprecating smile. What was there to be proud of about a prodigy who had fallen into a quagmire? In the past, he would receive tickets to this concert every year, but they were always platinum seats. This year, for some reason, It had become an ordinary VIP ticket. The Xiang Yan of the past no longer exists. Xiang Yan lowered his eyes and muttered to himself in a hoarse voice. His gentle eyes were filled with suppressed restlessness and decadence. P.S. It's coming. Be good and stay in the top 15 monthly votes. Don't let old Sue drop out halfway through his update. Chapter 602. All of a sudden, a clear voice sounded. The current Xiang Yan is still Xiang Yan. Xiang Yan looked up and saw Bei Yunj, who was biting the cake fork, looking at him. She took the fork down and fiddled with the cake in her hand. Xiang Yan. It's hard, but get through it. Hearing this, Xiang Yan looked at Bei Yunj in front of him. His hand holding the phone inexplicably heated up. Not long after, Bei Yunj and Xiang Yan were about to return to the concert. They were almost bumped into by someone who suddenly ran over. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously. There was a faint coldness in her eyes. Before she looked up, she saw the gorgeously dressed woman in front of her turn her head and sneer at the foreign man who was rushing over. Am I causing trouble for you? The woman pointed at Bei Yunj and questioned the man. This sister should be your type, right? You are rich and powerful. Others may be willing to follow you, but I will never. Her tone was filled with loftiness and arrogance. This scene of expressing her arrogance as if there was no one else around made Xiang Yan and Bei Yunj's eyes cold. Bei Yunj savored the woman's words and licked her red lips. She smiled carelessly and said, "Why do I feel unhappy when I hear this?" With that said, the arrogant woman froze for a moment. It was probably the first time she had met someone who said that. She turned her head and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly. Her expression changed immediately. She had always been proud of her looks. Back then, many socialites in Yincheng had lost to her face. Even the eldest daughter of the Song family, who had been praised by everyone, was at most on par with her. But the girl in front of her was the same as her. They were both gorgeous. But compared to this girl, she who used to brag about her charm, was inexplicably tacky. Even if this girl didn't speak, she had an innate elegance and self-restraint. Ling, the foreign man, immediately stepped forward, grabbed the woman's hand and apologized to Bei Yunj. I'm very sorry. My friend was reckless and made a fool of himself. The foreign man spoke the language of country A. It seemed that the woman beside him did not understand the language of country R. Tell your friend to be more sensible. Bei Yunj glanced at the woman slowly. The corners of her lips curled up as she said with a lazy smile, If you really have such a backbone, you should take off the string of jewelry around your neck, throw it to the ground, and leave immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman's body froze. She felt a burning pain on her face, and anger rose in her chest. This was the first time she had been humiliated in public. At this thought, she bit her lip and her gaze finally landed on Xiang Yan. This man. He was even better looking than Fu Yanbai, but it was a pity that he was a lame man. The regret in the woman's eyes dissipated, and then a great sense of satisfaction rose. She looked at Bei Yunj and smiled. I'm sorry, my friend and I were just throwing a tantrum. I wonder who this is, Mrs. Boyfriend? What a pity. I think this gentleman must have been a proud son of heaven in the past. Hearing this, Xiang Yan's eyes did not waver because he had heard such words many times. But then, just as Xiang Yan was about to explain for Bei Yunj, suddenly she chuckled. She said leisurely, Why should a proud son of heaven be afraid of being at the end of the road? In an instant, Xiang Yan's long eyelashes fluttered violently as he subconsciously looked up at the girl in front of him. Chapter 603. Bei Yunj smirked and patted the hem of her skirt lazily. Also, this is my friend. With that said, Bei Yunj left with Xiang Yan, leaving the young woman standing there with an ugly expression. This girl had a natural aura that she couldn't imitate no matter how hard she tried. The woman bit her lip and turned to look at the foreign man. Seeing that he was also looking at Bei Yunj's back in amazement, a flame of jealousy rose in her heart. That person, do you like her? Yu Ling could not help but ask. Hearing this, the man wanted to nod, but in the end he could only shake his head. Seeing this, Yuling finally felt better in her heart. The man's gaze was still fixed on the place where Bai Yunj had just left. That girl was not someone he could covet at first glance. As Yuling walked on the road with this foreign man, she still felt annoyed for no reason. It had to be said that compared to this foreign man, Fu Yanbai was more popular with her. Thinking of this, Yuling's desire to return to Yun City grew even stronger. Especially after being stimulated by the strange girl just now. She wanted to return to Yun City and let that girl know what kind of existence she was in Yun City back then. Yuling's eyes darkened, and she found her seat according to the admission ticket. But what she did not expect was, looking back, she found that Bai Yunj and that man were only in the ordinary VIP seats. She was a little surprised and felt a sense of superiority in her heart. At first, she thought that the two of them would be in the first 10 rows no matter what. She did not expect them to be sitting in the 15th row, at the end of the VIP seats. Yuling retracted her gaze and sat back in her seat with a smile on her face, as she watched the grand music concert. Every day, when they came out, Yuling held the foreign man's hand and smiled. Today's concert was really good. Every year, our nation has an International Musicians Association concert, and the last ones are all members of the International Musicians Association. Only the top upper class of each country can participate in that concert. Hearing the foreign man say this, Yuling's eyes were filled with yearning. She unconsciously pinched the man's sleeve. Then can you participate? Yuling could not help but ask. The foreign man shook his head. I'm not qualified yet, but the person in charge of my group participated last year. Hearing this, Yuling was even more disappointed. If it were Fu Yanbai, he would definitely take her to see it, right? Seeing that Yuling was unhappy, the foreign man comforted her. However, my boss will be staying in Yun City for a long time this year. Maybe I can ask him for one. After all, he had been with his boss for so many years. He still had a chance to get a concert ticket. However, Yuling just smiled and said, "Forget it, I'm just very interested in music. I don't want you to do something difficult for me." After saying that, Yuling hid the indignation in her eyes. If it was Fu Yanbai, with his status as the young master of the Fu family, why would he need to grovel and beg others for votes? Thinking of this, Yuling took a deep breath. She looked up and happened to see Bai Yunj and Shang Yan. "Miss," Yuling shouted and quickly walked in front of Bai Yunj. "What's the matter?" Bai Yunj glanced at this woman. Her impatience was clearly displayed on her face. The foreign man tugged on Yuling's sleeve when he saw her half-smiling expression. It was obvious that this young lady did not like them. However, Yuling smiled and said, "We've met so many times. Don't you think it's fate?" Chapter 604. Hearing this, Bai Yunj's eyebrows twitched. She looked at Yuling for a while. "This is the first time I've met someone who doesn't know how to appreciate favors like you." Instantly, the atmosphere was silent and awkward. Yuling was speechless. The foreign man was speechless. Shang Yan suppressed his laughter, his gentle eyes especially making people unable to look away. He could tell that Bai Yunj was not mocking Yuling on purpose. She really felt that way. This made Yuling not know how to reply for a moment. "Miss, are you very prejudiced against me?" Yuling forced out a smile. "Not really. I don't like others to be an eyesore in front of me." Bai Yunj glanced at her and asked Shang Yan, "Are you leaving?" Seeing this, Yuling was still blocking Bai Yunj, not wanting her to leave with a smile on her face. "Miss, actually, I want to be friends with you." Bai Yunj licked the corners of her lips and laughed, her gaze turning cold. "Miss, do you lack friends so much?" Seeing that Bai Yunj could barely suppress her coldness, Yuling's suitor hurried forward and said, "Miss, don't be angry. I think Yuling might just want to treat you to a meal." With that said, that suitor even turned around and begged Shang Yan for help with his eyes. Hearing this, Yuling seemed to have thought of something as a dark look flashed past her eyes. She started to show weakness. "Yes, miss, I don't have any ill intentions." With that said, Yuling bit her lip and looked at Shang Yan. Bai Yunj raised an eyebrow. "Shang Yan, we." Then, before Bai Yunj could say anything, Shang Yan said, "Yunj, do you have time?" If you do, we can go for a meal together. Bei Yunj glanced at Xiang Yan. She was not interested in such activities. Besides, she remembered that the old master said that this person did not like places for gatherings. Are you sure? Let's go. I'm hungry too. Xiang Yan's eyes were like stars as his thin red lips curled up slightly. She had a gentle temperament, but it always made people feel shocked. Yu Ling and the others were preparing to attend a party nearby, which wasn't too far away. On the road, Xiang Yan unlocked his phone and saw countless messages from Nancy. He didn't scroll up, but he roughly saw a few lines of content. You went to the concert on Shimei Road? My heir seems to have gone too. She didn't come to the Computing Institute today. I'm so lonely. Speaking of which, she doesn't talk to me when she's around. Although our Guer is only a high school student, she's really quite pretty. I guarantee that she'll be the prettiest one at the concert. Xiang Yan's brows twitched as he looked at Bei Yunj. Did you just call me? Bei Yunj turned around and asked. Xiang Yan looked at her without saying anything. Bei Yunj thought that she had heard it wrong, so she didn't pay much attention to it. At this moment, Xiang Yan was silent for a moment before sending Nancy a message. Sy, Bei Yunj. A few seconds later. Nancy. Nancy, how do you know Guer's full name? Seeing this message, Xiang Yan's heart skipped a beat as his eyes darkened. How could the heir that Nancy had her eyes on be Bei Yunj? At this thought, Xiang Yan suddenly thought of what old Master Qin had said to himself in the hospital. My Guer doesn't know anything. She's only good-looking and easily provokes bad guys. What will happen if I pass away? Xiang Yan was speechless. So his granddaughter who didn't know anything was? P.S. Pfft, I can't tell your capabilities usually. So many people are watching the update. Old Sue, go prepare to update. There are still 6 updates left. I'll leave the monthly votes ranking to you guys. If you don't fall off the rankings, keep updating. Chapter 605. It took Xiang Yan a long time to mentally prepare himself. Previously, he was already surprised enough when he heard Nance say that the high school student he had his eyes on was. Even though he had graduated from Neely University and had seen countless geniuses, her talent was the most unimaginable to him. Now, what shocked him even more was that it was actually Bei Yunj, an elder young miss who looked like she had a bad temper. Even her grandfather had always thought that his granddaughter didn't know anything. Xiang Yan looked at the figure in front of him. Before long he replied to Nance. Sy, I agree to the matter you asked me to consider. Sy, I'll return to our nation after some time. At this moment, Nance, who was at the Computing Institute, suddenly saw Xiang Yan's message and was jolted awake. What was going on? Why did such a difficult person like Xiang Yan suddenly agree? Just as Nance was feeling confused, Bei Yunj had already entered the banquet venue. She realized it later. Bei Yunj also sensed that something was wrong. She felt that the name Yu Ling sounded a little familiar. Soon, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered. Yu Ling Fuyanbai's sweetheart? Was she not dead? Or did she recognize the wrong person? Yunj, what are you thinking about? Xiang Yan had arrived beside her at some point in time. Nothing. I just think that woman's name sounds a little familiar. Bei Yunj said slowly. Hearing this, Xiang Yan smirked. Maybe they really know each other. I heard from George that Miss Yu used to be from Yincheng. 2 to 3 years ago, he saved her from the shore. Hearing Xiang Yan say this, Bei Yunj was almost certain that this Yu Ling was the Yu Ling she knew. Looking at Bei Yunj's expression, Xiang Yan roughly knew that Bei Yunj was really related to this Yu Ling. Did she have any unhappiness with you? Xiang Yan asked. No. Bei Yunj's lips curled up. She did have some unhappiness with my Tian Tian. The banquet was held by the riverbank, which was paved with solid wood. The lights and moonlight reflected on the sparkling ripples. Behind the green trees were white villas. Wherever his gaze landed, it was like a painting. You are Mr. Ji, aren't you? Yu Ling's voice sounded. At this moment, Ji Yiqing turned around and saw a woman in a wine-red dress with scales and spaghetti straps. She was extremely charming. If it was in the past, Ji Yiqing might have been attracted as well. Unfortunately, he happened to see Pei Yunj in a gown at Yutha residence that time. The girl had black hair and snow-white skin. Her excessively beautiful eyes carried a faint smile without any warmth. That was the first time Ji Yiqing had a strong sense of why the demon concubine could turn all living beings upside down. "Miss Yu, you've come." Ji Yiqing nodded and said with a smile, "Last month, I was very grateful that Miss Yu was willing to accept the temporary blood donation. Otherwise, my sister might not have been able to keep her life." Yu Ling suppressed the surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect the younger brother of the noble lady she saved to be so decent. Then she smiled and said, "It's just a blood donation. After all, it's 2 lives. I heard that Miss Yu also faints at blood. You're really kind." Ji Yiqing curled his lips and said, "By the way, is that gentleman Miss Yu's boyfriend?" "No." Yu Ling immediately denied it. Seeing Ji Yiqing's stunned expression, Yu Ling hurriedly lowered her head and gently tucked her long hair behind her ear. "I don't have a boyfriend." Chapter 606. Ji Yiqing looked at Yu Ling in front of him and felt that it was a little strange, but he did not know what was strange. He could only nod. Then he remembered his sister's intentions and handed a gift box to Yu Ling. Yu Ling was flattered. "Mr. Ji, what are you doing?" "My sister asked me to give this to you. She's in confinement now and can't express her gratitude to you in person. So she asked me to bring it to you." Who knew? Hearing this, Yu Ling's expression suddenly did not look too good. "Mr. Ji, with your sister's situation, if it was someone else, I would have helped them too. I really don't need your thank you gift." Ji Yiqing raised his eyebrows and laughed carelessly. "Miss Yu, did you misunderstand something? I appreciate Miss Ji's kindness. Mr. Ji inviting me to the banquet today is already considered a thank you gift for me." Yu Ling insisted. Hearing this, it was Ji Yiqing's first time encountering such a situation. "If Miss Ji really wants to express her gratitude, why don't you treat me to a meal when she's free?" Yu Ling said with a smile, a dark look flashing past her eyes. Back then, she wanted to see the people of the high society through Song Yao. Unfortunately, Song Yao had never been friendly to her. "All right, then I'll deal with this thank you gift separately." Ji Yiqing nodded and did not forget to say with a smile, "If Miss Yu needs any help in the future, you can look for me too." Hearing this, Yu Ling's heart beat faster and her cheeks flushed slightly. "What's Mr. Ji's occupation?" "Don't misunderstand, I just feel that Mr. Ji's aura is very different." Ji Yiqing said, "Soldiers. My family has been in the army for generations, but because my mother's family is in business and she's the only daughter, she also has a business." "That's very impressive." Yu Ling could not help praising. "I'm very envious of Mr. Ji for having such a good living environment. As for me, I don't even know what to do if I want to return to Yuncheng." "You want to return to Yuncheng?" Ji Yiqing looked at her. Bean Bookstore. Yu Ling bit her lip, as if she found it difficult to say what she was going to say next. "I used to have a very crazy boyfriend. I'm afraid that he'll find me. How about this? If Miss Yu really wants to go back, I can help you." Just as Ji Yiqing was halfway through speaking, he glanced around from the corner of his eye and happened to see a familiar person. When Yu Ling saw that Ji Yiqing had suddenly stopped speaking halfway, she subconsciously looked back. But to her surprise, the man was looking at Bei Yunj in the middle of their conversation. Yu Ling's expression changed. She forced a smile and deliberately asked, "Does Mr. Ji know that young lady? I met that lady on the road today. The man in the wheelchair next to her might be her boyfriend?" "He's not." After Ji Yiqing finished speaking, he walked towards Bei Yunj without waiting for Yu Ling to continue speaking. This almost caused Yu Ling's face to darken. "Ling, does Mr. Ji know that young lady?" "I don't know." Yu Ling's face was cold as she followed him and ignored George. At this time, Bei Yunj heard a familiar voice. "Why is Miss Pei here?" Bei Yunj turned around and saw Ji Yiqing. "Let's eat," she said. Ji Yiqing. This person didn't seem to know that this was a banquet hosted by the Ji family. What was wrong with Master Du? He didn't even give the young lady food? "Does your brother know that you're eating at my house?" Ji Yiqing asked with a smile. Chapter 607. Bei Yunji paused. Your house? Ji Yiqing nodded, then looked down at the gift box and casually stuffed it to Bei Yunji. Take it. Bei Yunji frowned unconsciously. What is it? It should be jewelry. I don't need it either. Ji Yiqing had never asked his sister, but according to his sister's generosity, it was undoubtedly a gem. Bei Yunji placed the gift box on the table. I don't need it either. She found it troublesome to keep the 3 safes that Qin Luyan and the other 2 had sent her last time. Miss Pei is too disrespectful. Ji Yiqing chuckled unconsciously. It's just a small thing. Take it as a thank you for helping to contact them. Or can you bring it to her? Bei Yunji turned around. She's not interested either. Just nice. When Xiang Yan, who was beside them, heard this, his lips curved unconsciously as he looked at Bei Yunji with interest. Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched. Up to you. She would get Huashidu to send this back later. Are you? You know without asking? With that said, Ji Yiqing stuffed the gift box back to Bei Yunji confidently. Yu Ling said with a smile. Especially when she saw the gift box in Bei Yunji's hand. Her face almost distorted. Bei Yunji did not reply and only ate some food. Suddenly, Miss, so you know Mr. Ji? She never thought that Ji Yiqing would turn around and give Bei Yunji the thank you gift that she had decisively rejected. However, Bei Yunji was not embarrassed at all. I know her, Ji Yiqing answered casually. However, Yu Ling could not help but glance at Bei Yunji, her tone inexplicably strange. Miss Pei is really popular. I'm afraid people give you gifts everywhere you go, right? Xiang Yan said. I heard that your brothers gave you a safe of jewelry each. Is that true? I think so. One of them is filled with antiques. Instead, she placed the gift box on the table and ate her snacks. All of a sudden. Qin Luyan and the rest? I heard that the Qin family has been in the limelight recently. I don't know why, but EG Corporation is in a hurry to cooperate. The Qin family also has a very mysterious and powerful hacker. Ji Yiqing said with a smile. Miss Pei's 3 brothers are all amazing. Bei Yunji's casual words made Yu Ling's expression freeze. Did this girl's brother give her an entire safe when he bought jewelry? The Qin Corporation that cooperated with EG? Previously, she had heard George mention that this was a new force that was at the peak of its power. At this moment, Yu Ling, who was by the side, practically froze all over. Qin Lang? Yu Ling asked with a stiff voice. How could he be this girl's brother? I know that it's unlikely for your brother to have a girlfriend. What about Qin Yu and Qin? And Bei? Is Kate? Ji Yiqing was still excited when he talked about Bei Yunji's family. Were these 2 people the ones she knew? Miss, you should have left country for some time. On the other hand, Yu Ling's mentality almost twisted as an indescribable jealousy spread. Back then, she thought that Song Yao was already a rich young lady that everyone envied. If she could win against Song Yao, she already had the ability to make people envious. But what was wrong with this girl? P.S. There are still 3 chapters left. Be obedient and remember to vote. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.